The anime begins as a hard worker named Noor does some jobs around town. He's well respected by everyone for his work ethic, and he makes a decent living. One day, when being paid, Noor hears a girl calling for help, and he rushes into a cave to find that she's being attacked by a ferocious beast. A look back to 15 years ago shows a young Noor making some medicine for his sick mother. The hard-working Noor gets ready to bring in the goats, so his mother reminds him not to go beyond a certain rock. His mother is clearly very sick, so Noor plans to go make her some more tea, but his mother stops him. She apologizes for not being able to do anything for him, and she tells Noor to live the life he wants. That night Noor makes dinner, but he's terrified when he finds out his mother passed away. Noor puts his mother to rest the next day and begins learning how to live life all on his own. Noor's life is filled with responsibility, but he has no one by his side. One night Noor finds a book, and it triggers a memory from when his father used to read to him. This story in particular is about an adventurer that slayed a dragon with his friends. He learned magic spells from a sorcerer and broke a curse that was cast upon a forest. The adventurers group was highly respected, as they always raised their swords and struck down evil for the sake of their friends. Noor is still in awe of this adventurer, and he remembers how his mother told him to live the life he wanted to live. One day Noor decides to leave town for the first time ever, and he declares that he will become an adventurer. Noor says goodbye to his deceased parents and exits the barrier protecting his home. After days of traveling, Noor is amazed by the sight of the gigantic royal capital. He enters it for the first time ever and marvels at all the people there. He is especially amazed by one guy that looks like an adventurer, and he eventually arrives at his destination. It's the Adventurers Guild at the guards at the front gate told him about, but the clerk tells him to leave. It's just not a place for kids. He tells Noor to go back to his parents, but Noor reveals that they both passed away. The clerk warms up to him a bit and explains that those wanting to register at the Royal Capital's Adventurers Guild must first take lessons at the Royal Training Schools. He suggests that if Noor really wants to become an adventurer, then he must acquire some skills first. Noor hears that this means stuff like magic and the art of the sword, so he gets excited to go to the schools. Heroes in storybooks are strong enough to defeat dragons as big as mountains with just one strike, so Noor is eager to learn how to become a hero. Noor attends the School of Heroes, but he can only watch as his classmates begin unlocking their magical powers. Noor's instructor eventually grows tired of waiting for Noor to unlock his powers, and tells him that continuing to try would only be a waste of his time. The only thing Noor has learned to do is parrying to evade an attack. The instructor thinks that Noor should choose a different path, and he's suggesting he tried a different training school. Noor does and arrives at a school for warriors. Warriors risk their lives as shields for their friends, so Noor finds some optimism because that is pretty close to being an adventurer. Warrior training is incredibly grueling, but even after a few months of training, Noor's physical abilities only improve slightly. The instructor warns that he will lose his life if he continues to push himself, so Noor is told to try hunter training instead. Unfortunately, Noor is told that he is terrible with delicate weaponry, so he tried thief training instead. He isn't suited for that either though, so he tries magic training. Noor is only able to create the tiniest flame, even after months of training, and Gandalf is shocked because it's rare to see people as incapable of using magic as Noor is. Noor's last attempted to become a cleric, but he can barely manage to heal scratches after months. The clerk is shocked to hear that Noor could not learn a single useful skill after spending 3 months training at each school, and he unfortunately tells Noor that he cannot register as an adventurer. The discouraged Noor realizes that he is no prodigy and returns home. He is more sure than ever that he has no talent. However, this has not stopped the spirited Noor, and he declares that he just needs to train much harder. Noor makes his own sword, and remember, is what his sword instructor told him. He said that if Noor practices one skill repeatedly, he might be able to master a new skill. Parrying was the only real skill he acquired from training, so he decides to train at morning, noon, and night for as long as he can. 1 year passes and Noor has increased his parrying skills so much that he can now evade 10 swords in one breath. He doesn't have any new skills yet, but his parrying has improved immensely. 3 years later, Noor is now able to evade 100 swords in one breath. However, he still doesn't have any new skills, so Noor determines he has no chance of ever becoming an adventurer. Noor continues training though, eventually destroying his sword and seeing a light in his hand. Noor is incredibly determined and decides that he needs to train even harder. 10 years later, Noor thinks about how he has trained every day without fail, and he can now parry 1,000 wooden swords. Unfortunately, he still has not achieved any new skills. Noor decides to try and become an adventurer one last time and heads back to the capital. At the guild, the receptionist sees like he only knows the weakest skills. She suggested he go to the training schools, but Noor explains that he has already tried all of them. The girl apologized because Noor cannot be allowed to register, but Noor expected this. Just then the old clerk appears, but he doesn't recognize Noor. He eventually remembers him, and he's glad to hear that Noor has been training on his own. Noor explains it hasn't gone well at all though, because he only managed to improve his parrying skill a little. The old guy explains that adventurers are ranked from E to S rank. In order to be recognized as an E rank, a person must have more than one useful skill. Noor's said list of skills doesn't show anything useful, so Noor's dreams are crushed again. However, the old clerk says that there's more than one way to become an adventurer. There is actually something lower than E rank, and that is F rank. Noor can't believe that he might still be able to become an adventurer this way, but there are some conditions. He would be forbidden from taking any quests that involve taking lives or venturing out of the city to gather items. This means that he will only be able to accept tasks around the city. No one bothers becoming an adventurer this way, but the clerk is shocked. Noor eagerly wants to do it. Noor registers, so the clerk gives him his F-rank adventurer license. The clerk doesn't think it's a big deal, but this is life-changing for Noor, so he thanks him. Noor enhances his strength bit and gets right to work doing tasks around the town. He also increases his speed to catch a cat and uses heel to fix some scratches he got from the cat. Noor uses his tiny flame to make dinner, and the rock trick to entertain some kids. Noor has finally achieved his dream of becoming an adventurer that helps people, and he fears that asking for anything more it would be too much. We then return to the present, where Noor runs into the cave and finds people being attacked by a monster. Noor has only seen monsters in books, and he's shocked to see how big it is. Some guards tried to protect the girl, and the captain gets attacked. Noor goes to check on him but finds that the captain is already gone. The monster ferociously attacks the other guards, and Noor can tell that they won't survive. Seconds later, Noor's fear proves to be correct. As the monster eradicates all the guards, the beast turns its attention to the girl, but Noor uses a stone throw attack to get its attention. Noor knows what he has to do, so he runs to get some space, and he realizes how fast the beast is. Noor then turns to it and uses parry, which sends the monster flying. The beast attacks him, so Noor uses his parrying skill, but he knows that he will lose his life if he gets hit by an attack. Noor's plan is to wait for an opening so he can counterattack, but he remembers that that won't work because he doesn't have any attack skills. Noor sees that the girl still hasn't run away, and the monster seems to be attracted to her ring. The monster goes to attack her, but Noor uses his feather step ability to speed up, and he parries his attack. His sword shatters, but Noor declares that even if he can't become an adventurer hero, he wants to at least be able to protect this girl. Noor remembers how his father said that adventurers raise their swords to strike down evil for the weak, and he prepares himself for the monster's attack. Noor then uses parry with perfect timing to stop the beast attack, and Noor's parry slices the monster's head right off. Noor realizes that he would have been a goner if the monster was any bigger, and he now knows how unrealistic it would be for him to travel the world and go on adventures at his current level. The girl thanks Noor for saving her life, and she would like to know his name. Noor simply says that he's no one important and leaves. That night, Noor thinks about how one monster who wasn't even a demon was such a problem for him. He shakes uncontrollably and once again determines that he must continue to train harder. The story continues. We see in the cave shows the aftermath of Noor's battle against the beast. A knight apologizes for not being there to protect the girl named Lynne, but Lynne says it's okay because there's no point in having an escort for the trials for the right to the throne. It was Lynne's decision in the first place, and she apologizes to the knight named Ines for making her worry. Lynne's brother Rain learns about what happened, and he wonders if someone summoned the Minotaur to the city. It is a demon that resides in the abyss, the deepest layer of the dungeon, so someone had to bring it to the surface. Dalkin the knight agrees with him and explains that the source is thought to be a ring found on the corpse of our merchant at the scene. Some old mage analyzed the ring and found that it has a very high quality stone that would not be found on the market. The crest left on the stone indicates that the ring originates from the magic empire of Deridas. This isn't the first time they have been antagonized by Deridas. This time a monster was summoned and Princess Lynne was bound by a barrier, so they realized that they must be careful. Deridas not only wanted to eliminate Lynne, he is also after the kingdom's most valuable resource, the relics of the Dungeon of the Lost. Rain decides to change topics to the mysterious man that saved Lynne. Report says that the guy used a single broadsword and he defeated the Minotaur in just a matter of seconds. The knights followed him after, but the report says that he disappeared before their guys like an illusion. It all sounds pretty unbelievable, so Rain wonders just who this guy is. Back at the guild, old clerk is shocked to see the Noor is still alive because he heard that a demon appeared near the entrance of the dungeon. It was a demon like they have never seen before, and they couldn't find Noor afterwards. Noor thinks about how he was busy getting away from a strange group of people following him, but he just tells the clerk that he was tired and went home. The clerk explains that Noor is really lucky that he didn't bump into the demon. The clerk used to be an A rank, but even he would have lost his life if he encountered the beast. Noor assumes that the clerk is talking about a different monster than the one he fought because his was actually just a big cow monster, not a demon. The clerk also explains that a mysterious man defeated the demon with one blow, and the clueless Noor amazed that there are outstanding people like that out in the world. The clerk pays Noor for his work, but wonders why he's more interested in taking a proper job. Noor has no clue what he's talking about, so the clerk once again has to explain to him that there's a way Noor can earn 30% more without the clerk taking a cut. Just then they're interrupted as Lynne appears, and the clerk is shocked to see her. Lynne is glad to have found Noor, using her long-distance detection skill, and she apologizes for doing so, but explains that she just had to meet him. Noor assumes that she has thief skills, but she explains that her focus is magic and she also has knowledge of all 6 skill systems. Everyone is staring at them, so she would like to speak outside. The clerk is uneasy though, and wonders what kind of trouble Noor got himself into. Lynne explains that talking outside would be better because there are less people there, and no one will be able to eavesdrop on them when she uses her soundproofing and concealment spell. Noor wonders if it's a good idea to go with her, but the clerk tells him that he must. Outside, Noor overhears that everyone is searching for the mystery man, but they begin to wonder if he even really exists. Noor wonders who they are searching for, but Lynne tells them not to worry because they can't be detected. Lynne did all this to thank him for saving her life, and she explains that he actually saved the lives of many others in the nation. Noor points out that Lynne is pretty strong herself, and he thinks he actually just interfered with her fight. She can't imagine what would have happened to her if it wasn't for Noor, so Noor decides to accept her thanks. Lynne wants to compensate him with her deepest gratitude, but the humble Noor says it's not necessary. Her father even wants to thank Noor personally, but Noor also says that's going too far. Lynne explains that she's a person of high status, so she must give something to the person she owes her life to. She gets frustrated though when Noor rejects all her offers because he doesn't need anything. She eventually begins to cry and declares that Noor is obligated to accept her gratitude, so she refuses to move an inch until he does. This makes Noor remember the determination he had when trying to train at the schools, and he said he wouldn't leave either. Noor agrees to her demands because simply meeting her father doesn't seem like much of a hassle. Noor is surprised when she gets really cautious about it, and she explains that she doesn't want people to spot them. To keep that from happening, she uses concealment, detection, occlusion, and multiple other skills to hide them. Noor is shocked to see how huge her house is, but she says it's pretty common for her kind of family. Noor finally gives her his name and then realizes that she hasn't formally introduced herself yet. Her name is Lynne Clays, and she goes as Lynne when she is adventuring. Noor can't believe how gigantic her house is, so he assumes that she's some kind of aristocrat. Lynne asks Ines is where her father is, and Ines explains that he's speaking with Rain. Lynne explains that Noor is her special guest, and he is the one that risked his life to save hers. Ines is shocked to hear this and decides to take them to Lynne's father. Noor is completely lost at this point as he assumes that Ines is the family maid, although he thinks it would be strange since you would have a tough time cleaning and doing laundry in her outfit. Ines is very serious, and Noor can tell that she seems suspicious of him. On their way, some guy aggressively wonders who Noor is, and Noor realizes that this house is pretty dangerous. This guy's name is Gilbert, and Ines tells them that Noor is their special guest. Gilbert realizes that this is the guy everyone is looking for, but he doesn't think that Noor looks very special. Ines tells Gilbert to accompany them and secretly reveals that she is skeptical of Noor, so the more escorts they have the better. Gilbert becomes very serious and agrees to go with them. Nearby, the king is upset because Deridas is ignoring the peace treaty. He demanded that they hand over all the rights to the dungeon and offered to lend them his military power in return. The king knew that it was a scummy deal that would ruin his nation, so he refused, but Deridas has told him that he would regret his words. Rain explains that Deridas is not the only threat they are facing, and the king realizes that it's finally time for something. Just then Lynne arrives with everyone. Noor doesn't notice everyone else bowing down and he just walks right up to Lynne's father's. Rain sees that Lynne's wearing the hermit's cloak and he is furious because it means that she went outside. Lynne explains that she had to find the person that saved her life and she introduces Noor to her father. Lynne's father is glad that he came and Noor explains that he isn't an aristocrat, so he doesn't know proper etiquette in these situations. Lynne's father actually prefers it this way because it makes him easier to talk to and he formally thanks Noor for saving his daughter. Noor accepts his words, as that's all the gratitude he needs and he is relieved that it's finally all over with, so he can head straight home now. Lynne's father wants to reward him properly though, and offers to give him money and land. He wants to know what Noor desires, but Noor just says that he doesn't want anything like that. Lynne's father then offers treasures from the dungeon. Their country possesses the world's oldest dungeon and its treasures are incredibly rare. All the items found in the dungeon are stored in the treasure hall and he offers to let Noor take half of the items stored away in there. Rain is shocked as he points out that his father is being way too generous, but Noor once again declines. He doesn't need anything fancy and their kind words are thank you enough for him. Lynne's father doesn't know what to give a man that doesn't want money, land, or treasure, but Noor just wants to get out of there. Lynne's father resorts to his most extreme offer and shows Noor the sword he keeps behind his throne. Rain wonders what his father is thinking, but the king explains that it's okay because the sword has become nothing more than a mere decoration at this point. Giving it to Noor will be way better than just letting it sit unused and no one will notice if he replaces it with the replica anyway. No one can believe that the king is giving Noor this sword and Noor is shocked by how heavy it is. Noor can tell that the sword is priceless, so he declares that he can't accept such a gift. Lynne's father explains that it's just something he picked up and he only used it because he liked it. It's really not that big of a deal, so Noor decides to accept it. Lynne's father tells him to try it out, so Noor enhances his strength and the powerful swing he takes shocks everyone. Lynne's father's impressed by how he was able to swing it one-handed and he asks Noor if you can help toughen up his daughter. Things are getting pretty dangerous, so he's worried about her, but Noor doesn't think there's anything he can teach her. On top of that, Noor thinks that parents shouldn't interfere too much with their children and Lynne should decide that for herself. Lynne's father completely agrees with him and Noor thinks about how this guy likes to laugh a lot. Noor decides that it's time for him to go, so Lynne's father thanks him once again. As he leaves, Noor can't help but think that he was given something very valuable. Just then he realizes that this sword is the same width as a drain he's always cleaning for some old lady, and he wonders if he would make his job easier. Out of nowhere Ines appears to speak with Noor. Noor wonders if he's in trouble, but he is shocked when Ines takes a knee. She apologizes for treating him poorly, especially since he saved Lynne's life. Noor accepts her apology, so she explains that it's her job to protect the Clay family and that takes priority over everything. Noor realizes that she isn't a maid at all, so she explains that she's actually known as the Divine Shield and she serves as vice captain of the Clay family warrior corps. At a very young age she was appointed as shield for Lynne. It's her job to protect Lynne even if it cost her own life. Noor saved Lynne, so Ines declares that it's the same as him saving her life. Noor doesn't think it's that big of a deal, but Ines vows to help him however she can from now on. Noor thinks about how everyone there is pretty excessive but decides to just accept her sentiment. Ines then gets very serious and points out that while Lynne may have allowed it, Noor's speech and casual behavior towards the king was unacceptable. She cannot allow it anymore and she demands that he refrain from doing so ever again. Noor apologizes and he formally introduces himself. For some reason, she is shocked to hear that his name is Noor, but she says it's nothing. Just then Gilbert stops Noor from going home and demands that he show him what he can do in battle. The story continues. We see Noor follows Gilbert, but he is exhausted from all the running around today and just wants to head home, so he asks Gilbert what they are supposed to be doing. Just then Noor realizes that they've arrived at the castle's training room and Gilbert tells him that he wants to have a mock battle with Noor. Noor hasn't gotten to practice with another person since his days back in the training schools, so he's actually pretty enthusiastic about this. Gilbert walks up to the weapons rack and tells Noor that he's pretty well known in the royal capital, so he wants to see what the hero who saved Lynne is capable of in battle, and Noor is happy to accept since he sees it as a great chance to improve his skills. He personally doesn't think he will be able to beat Gilbert, but it's a good opportunity nonetheless, so Noor wants to make the most of it. A small crowd is gathered around them and they feel sorry for the poor soul who chose to go up against Captain Gilbert, but as the match begins, Gilbert makes the first move and this poor soul easily dodges it. Gilbert continues to attack, and while Noor is dodging his attacks, he remarks that Gilbert's moves are incredibly precise. He can only imagine the amount of training Gilbert had to do to get himself to this level. There's one thing he can't understand: if Gilbert is such a skilled adventurer, then why are his attacks so slow? Noor has never practiced with another person before, so he assumes that Gilbert must be moving slow intentionally since Noor is a novice adventurer. Noor calls for a timeout and tells Gilbert that he doesn't have to go easy on him that much, and while Gilbert was indeed holding back a little, he agrees to take things up a notch, so he charges at Noor with full force. His attacks are much faster now, but Noor still finds it odd that Gilbert is leaving himself wide open for a counterattack. Noor thinks there's no way Gilbert can possibly be this defenseless against him, so he assumes that Gilbert must be luring him in for a trap. Meanwhile, Gilbert doesn't understand why he can't land a single hit on Noor with his spears, so he tries using one of his signature moves on Noor, but while Noor was surprised, he simply jumps into the air to evade it, and when Gilbert tries to strike him mid-air, he just sucks underneath the attack. None of these attacks have made Noor so much as brick as sweat, so he tells Gilbert that it's fine if he speeds up even more since he's been going way too slow. Gilbert's pride is wounded by that statement, and Noor is finally starting to realize that all this solo training might have actually made him strong, but all of a sudden Gilbert uses his ultimate skill in an attempt to at least land one hit on Noor. Once the dust has settled, Noor has vanished and appears by Gilbert's side, and to Gilbert's surprise Noor says he gives up. After that, Noor heads home for the day and he's glad he made it out of there before things hit bad. But back at the training hall, Gilbert's subordinates are busy trying to come up with reasons why Gilbert is definitely still stronger than Noor even though his ultimate move didn't work. But deep down, Gilbert knows that he lost in every way imaginable. He's had a talent for the spear ever since the first day he picked one up, so there was no one who could stand up to his power. The more he trained, the more powerful his techniques got and the more strength he gained, but through it all he felt nothing but boredom, and he never found a worthy opponent for himself. He went around the kingdom and searched for strong opponents, but after he has already defeated every warrior in this particular village, the village chief apologizes and says there was no one here to match his strength. The chief goes on to tell them that there are rumors going around about the relations between the kingdom and a foreign country collapsing, so they are calling for strong troops to prepare for the likelihood of war. So if Gilbert is lucky, he might end up meeting someone who can give him the challenge that he has been so desperately looking for. Well, Gilbert returned to the capital and no single troop member was capable of standing up to him, and demon slaying was no longer a fun endeavor for him either. No matter how big the demon was, he was sick of being surrounded by weaklings. One day, while he was relaxing under a tree, his instructor walks up to him and asks why he looks so glum when he has just been crowned Spear Sovereign. Even with the fancy title, Gilbert is still as bored as ever since he's surrounded by total weaklings. His instructor brings out the Ines as a strong person, and while Gilbert agrees that she is strong and it's more of a different kind of strength, so whenever they have mock battles, Gilbert always ends up being the definitive victor. He thinks things would be a lot more interesting if there were more competent people around like his instructor, and he knows his instructor must be bored as well, especially since he has to train a bunch of rookie adventurers who don't even measure up to the power in his pinky finger. The instructor admits that it is a bit boring, but he is tasked with defending the kingdom, and no matter how strong he is, he can't win an entire war by himself. Besides, he's sure that someday an adventurer will show up that surpasses him in strength. When Gilbert heard about a man who managed to defeat a minotaur by himself, he wanted to meet him personally, but Noor makes no sense at all. He showed no interest in the most lavish gifts the king had to offer, and he was so casual with the king that Gilbert had to respect him for it. While fighting with Noor, Gilbert couldn't sense the power necessary to defeat a minotaur. That doesn't change the fact that Noor was able to dodge all of his moves. Even when he busted out his supersonic spear strike, it still did nothing against Noor. Well, it would have been a guaranteed death sentence to any other person. On top of that, Noor forfeited the match out of nowhere. Gilbert assumes Noor did it out of currencies since he didn't want to embarrass him in front of his subordinates. As Noor was leaving, Gilbert noticed a bunch of cracks in the floor, and he has no idea how they got here or what Noor did to cause them, but what he does know is that Noor was able to dodge his ultimate attack while he was at full power, so he has finally found truly worth opponent he has been searching for. As Noor walks home, he thinks about how foolish he was to think that he was strong. When Gilbert used his ultimate attack, even after Noor used his physical enhancement and feather step abilities, he was only able to barely evade the strike, and Gilbert must have been holding back just enough to prove a point, since there's no way she would actually use a lethal move a mock battle. He feels thankful to Gilbert for reminding him that he is still weak, so he's going to train even harder from now on. The next morning, Noor is busy with his usual gutter cleaning job and he's using the legendary sword to do it. He's shocked at how well the sword works for this, since the gutters have never been so clean before, and thanks to the sword's durability, it hasn't gotten even slightly scratched after all Noor has done with it. However, once he's done with his gutter cleaning, he is left with nothing to do since his construction job got put on hold because of the incident and the dungeon. Since he is only allowed to accept efferent jobs if what can the royal capital ever dries up, there may be entire days that he will have nothing to do, and Noor doesn't want that happen since his goal is to be useful to people. He considers starting a boat ride business and using the sword as an oar, but then he realizes that he would have to own a boat for that. He considers making pieces, but then he would need an oven. He finally considers making a grill out of his sword, but that won't work either since he can only make a flame with his fingertips. Just then, Noor hears from rustling in the bushes, so he turns around and finds Lynne standing there. She apologizes for showing up like this, but she couldn't find him at the guild, so she asked the guild master window would be. Noor understands, but he didn't tell the guild master his exact location, so Lynne must have used her tracking abilities to find him. Noor asks why Lynne is here, so she is straight to the point and tells Noor that she has a special request to ask him. She wants Noor to accept her as his page, but Noor has never even heard of a page before, so Lynne explains that it is an unpaid assistant who takes care of all of Noor's daily necessities in hopes of gaining some useful knowledge from him. She's fine as just being allowed to hang around Noor, and she promises that she will cause him any trouble, but Noor still refuses. She asks if she has done something to offend Noor or if she thinks she's unreliable, but Noor tells her that's not the case. She tries to assure him that she can be of use since she has scored the highest marks in all 6 training schools, but her competence isn't the issue here. There's just nothing for Noor teacher, and he doesn't need her to help him with his work either since he is perfectly capable of doing it on his own. Lynne tries to offer Noor a huge salary if he agrees to be her instructor, but he still doesn't care about money, so Lynne offers to let him use her to do whatever he wants, but Noor turns her down again. He really just doesn't have anything for Lynne to do, but she remains insistent and wants to prove to him that she can be useful, so she takes out her wand and says she's going to demonstrate her competence. She casts an ice spell to fire several icicles of herself, but before she gets hit, she uses a fire spell to destroy them. She tells Noor that this is the highest level of magic she can use, and in addition to that, she has also learned the secret skill of the thief class called Mist Blade. She learned it directly from the Sovereign of Shadows and is strong enough to easily cut down a tree with one swing. Next up, she wants to show Noor her sword skill, so she sends a divine slash straight towards Noor, but he effortlessly evades. The damage that is done to the trees is proof of how powerful the move is, and it's even got bonus damage when used against undead monsters. She's about to show more of her skills, but Noor tells her that he has seen enough. Lynne thinks this means he is willing to accept her as his page, but Noor still denies her request. Noor realizes Lynne must think he is someone who's worth studying under, but after seeing everything she's capable of doing, Noor honestly feels inferior compared to her. He tries telling her once more that there's nothing he can teach her, but Lynne takes that to mean that Noor thinks she's too weak to become a student. She serves that her power has been acknowledged by all the 6 sovereigns, and she's sure she can be useful to Noor in some way if she lets her join him. Noor's point still isn't getting through, so he tells Lynne that she possesses many amazing skills, but this is the current limit of Noor's skills. Lynne has left speechless and leaves Noor alone for today, but as she's walking home, she recounts the story of a boy with no talent who went through all 6 training schools. People often thought this was nothing more than a made-up legend since most adults would crumble under the pressure of the rigorous training program at one school, let alone complete the courses at all 6, and Lynne thought it was a fake story as well, but she actually got to meet this person. Back when she was studying magic, Oaken showed her something interesting about the basic spell Tiny Flame. While the flame created is usually as small as a point, with enough practice, one can make the flame slightly bigger. It had no practical use to him that he had been alive for 200 years at this point, so practicing the tiny flame became a hobby for him. Since she saw that Lynne has made several attempts to make her tiny flames slightly larger, but no matter what she does, it doesn't grow at all. It's something that requires tireless devotion over a long period of time, which is precisely why she was so shocked when Noor was able to create a massive tiny flame many times bigger than what Oaken could have ever done, and Oaken is the greatest wizard the world. For Noor's skills to be at such a level means far outclasses anything Lynne could pull off, and it was all done through his own effort. However, all the spells Lynne demonstrated were just things she had memorized. Noor had the power to defeat a minotaur that he still lives a regular life without bragging or showboating, so Lynne believes Noor is not only strong in body but also in mind. In the near future she will be in a position to lead this kingdom alongside her brother and father, and the rule of the Clay's family is that those with royal blood must be strong, so she wants to learn how to attain strength like Noor's. So if Noor doesn't want to be her instructor, then she's just going to have to stalk him as much necessary until he agrees to train her. The story continues. We see at the mansion the prince is trying to complaining to himself because he doesn't understand why his father would give the black blade to a random man of unknown lineage. The sword was acquired back when the king was still an adventurer, and on this particular trip he was delving into the deepest corners of the dungeon with the 6 sovereigns, and while it was a long and dangerous quest, it eventually led them to locate the prime dungeon treasure. The blade is made of an unknown material that is stronger than anything the kingdom has ever seen, so regardless of the skills and powers that were used to test it, there wasn't even a single scratch on it, so the sword was dubbed an indestructible sword. The biggest question they had about it was how a weapon that's so resilient managed to end up in such bad shape, but those answers will never be found now that the king has given up the sword. But then again, the prince could understand the king's motives, since the state of unrest within the kingdom has only gotten worse in recent months, so it is possible that the king is counting on Noor to bring some amount of change. At that same moment, Noor and Lynne out by a food stand, and Noor asks her it is alright for her to be casually hang out with him, but she says it's fine since she's acting as an adventurer right now, so she's free to do whatever she wants. In that case, Noor tells her that he was planning on heading to the guild after they'd eaten, but he's still not comfortable with the student-slash-stalker relationship he has with Lynne. He doesn't think he's someone worthy of being called a teacher, but Lynne is following him everywhere he goes, like he's perfectly normal. Noor thinks if he takes on some of his usual errand quests from the guild, then sooner or later Lynne should come to understand that Noor is just a regular dude and lose interest, but with how excited she looks to be following him, it doesn't seem likely. After lunch, Noor and Lynne head to the guild, but the guild master is confused to see Noor casually hanging out with the princess, so he asks Noor what's going on. Lynne reminds the guild master that while she's here, she's just an adventurer, so we shouldn't call her princess. Guild master apologizing, but now he's even more confused than before, so he asks Noor about it. Noor says it's a really complicated story, but Guildmaster has been doing this job for long enough to know that he doesn't want to get involved in complicated subplots, so he drops the subject and asks Noor if he came here to get another quest. Noor confirms this and asks for one that 2 people can handle, so Guildmaster takes a look at the questions he has available, and since Lynne will be joining Noor while she is Silver B rank, Noor now qualifies to take on a goblin hunting quest, which is a totally shocked him. Goblin quests are staples for new adventurers to test their skills, so he's really excited to be allowed to take on such a quest. Guildmaster says that normally Lynne would be able to take this request or something higher level alone, since Noor's F rank this is the best they're allowed to have. Noor is happy to finally be getting a quest that isn't just labor, but he also feels kind of bad since this means he will be taking advantage of Lynne's adventurer rank for his own personal gain. And up till now, he's been trying to get Lynne to leave him alone, so he doesn't think he deserves to rely on her now. He asks Lynne she's okay with this since Noor will be using her rank to accept this job, but Lynne says it's fine since she is just happy to help in any way she can. Noor glad to hear she's alright with it, even if she still has reservations about relying on a child, but since it's for the sake of one of his dreams, he's willing to go along with it and picks up his sword to head out. However, Guildmaster hasn't given it Noor any information about the quest yet, so Noor has to come back in and ask where exactly he is supposed to be going. After finally improving the quest, Guildmaster points to a map and tells Noor that he and Lynne are meant to head to this area, and they are only allowed to report monsters that they actually caught. The location is known as the Forest of Beasts, and as per guild rules they need to bring back the right ears of the goblins they slay in order to get compensated, but then again there have been reports that goblin populations have been dwindling, so in the event they don't manage to find any goblins, they're allowed to bring back some medicinal herbs or something instead. With that settled, Noor and Lynne head to the gatekeepers where their information needs to be reviewed, and after everything is verified, they are both allowed to leave on their quest. A while later, they arrived in the Forest of Beasts, and this is Noor's first time seeing such dense vegetation, and they are different from the trees he usually sees in the southern forests. While on the topic of things Noor has never seen before, he asked Lynne if she can tell her a bit about goblins since he would like to know what they are like before he encountered one. Lynne understands and begins telling him about how goblins are monsters. They usually hunt small animals and gather fruits for foods, but they are also known to attack human. If left unchecked, their population could easily grow out of control, which is why the guild gives quests like these to help keep the goblin population under control. But goblins are also a valuable part of the forest ecosystem, so it is best not to hunt them to extinction. Noor is grateful for the information, and he is also impressed with how much knowledge Lynne has about adventuring, but this just means there really isn't anything for him to teach her. As they head deeper into the forest, Lynne uses her search ability to scan for any nearby goblins, but she doesn't find anything nearby. Under normal circumstances they should have already encountered at least one goblin, but it seems like the rumors about dwindling goblin numbers are true after all, but she didn't find any goblins. Lynne's scan didn't manage to pick up on a monster-like creature, but it's a bit far away, since they don't have any other monsters to hunt. Noor agrees, goes searching for this unknown monster. They start heading even deeper into the forest, and the further they go, the denser the trees get, giving the area an ominous vibe. This is the kind of location a goblin would love to hang around, but as they're walking, Lynne notices something strange as the presence of the monster they were tracking just disappears all of a sudden. They arrived at the location Lynne had previously sensed the monster, but as far as they can tell there's nothing here. However, Noor notices a pair of dangling legs floating in the air, so Lynne casts an uncover spell and it reveals a massive goblin in the middle of the woods. Noor asks what that thing is, and Lynne answers that she thinks it's a goblin, but she probably should have clarified that regular goblins don't have 10-pack abs, since now, Noor thinks all goblins are meant to be this. The goblin picks up 2 trees to attack them with, and Lynne is absolutely freaking out, but Noor just thinks she's scared because she doesn't have much combat experience. However, the real reason she's freaking out is because that thing is a Goblin Emperor. A Goblin Emperor is a monster created when scientists lock a goblin in a gym with nothing but protein powder and steroids, and on top of already being ridiculously jacked, this one is capable of eating other goblins and ingesting their strengths to grow stronger. Noor speaks up and tells her that there's nothing to worry about, since from his limited goblin knowledge, even new adventurers should be able to defeat this thing, and seeing Noor remain so confident gives Lynne the false impression that he must have known about the Goblin Emperor ahead of time, which is why he was so excited to get to eliminate this serious threat. She now has even more respect for Noor than she already did, and since he seems confident in their ability to win this fight, she decides to show a little courage and stand alongside him to fight. The goblin charges towards them, so Noor gets in position and parries all its strikes. The goblin realizes that Noor is too skilled, so it attempts to sweep Noor into a corner to gain the advantage. However, Noor knows what it is trying to do, so he overpowers the goblin, and while it is stun locked he instructs Lynne to attack. She fires her wind spell, followed by an icicle barrage, but even with that, the goblin is moving too quickly for her to get a clean shot off on it. Once the goblin starts running, it trips a huge tree at Lynne, but before she gets hit, Noor runs in front of her and blocks the attack. The goblin continues tossing trees at Noor and eventually comes up with the idea to overwhelm him by tossing several trees at him from above, and one from the front, so now Noor can't block all of them at once. Luckily, before Noor gets hit, Lynne uses a windblast spell and blows the trees away while dealing damage to the goblin. Noor thanks her for the help, but as Lynne looks back at the goblin, she's shocked to find that it is human and abnormally quick rate. The mana stone on its head is probably allowing it to replenish its strength, so at this rate they are definitely going to run on the stamina before they can defeat it. Just then, Noor comes up with an idea to defeat the goblins, so he asks to learn to fire a wind blast straight in his back. Lynne thinks that's a crazy idea, since one of the wind blasts is strong enough to demolish a castle walls, so a direct hit is guaranteed to seriously injure Noor. Yet, Noor still wants to go through with the plan of the sides. He has his sword in his back, so he will be taking the hit directly. The only chance they have at winning is to be faster than the goblin, and this is the only plan they've got, so Lynne agrees to help. As the goblin is preparing to attack once more, Lynne fires a wind blast at Noor and sends him flying forward at incredible speeds. He blacks out for a second, but after regaining consciousness he uses his physical enhancement to stabilize himself, feather step to evade the monster's tree tosses, and low heel to relieve the stress on his body. This allows him to get close enough to the goblin and strike it cleanly in the forehead, dislodging the mana stone. With the mana stone removed, it will now be a lot easier to kill the goblins, so Noor asks Lynne to finish it off. But since it's in a lot of pain already, he asks her not to make it suffer. Lynne agrees, but she then proceeds to burn the goblin to death. I don't think that counts as itself from free death. Thankfully, they are done with their quest for today, but Noor says he's going to refrain from going on any more goblin slaying quests, since he clearly isn't strong enough to handle mere goblin as he is now. Later that evening, the prince has received news of the Goblin Emperor that Noor and Lynne defeated, and he is almost certain that the magical empire is behind this somehow, but something that really concerns him is the purity of the mana stone that was implanted in the goblin's head. Something like this could only have come from the holy theocracy of Mithra, so they now have to worry about them as well. The prince asks how Lynne is doing after the fight, and he is relieved to hear that she only suffered minor wounds despite being up against a monster like that, but according to what Lynne told the secret course, the goblin was using his high-level cloaking magic, so it was probably in the forest for at least a couple of days. The prince is surprised that her cloaking magic that was imperceptible even to their special forces. Put that aside, how the hell did the magic empire transport a giant monster like that into the kingdom without anyone noticing? Even if it were done with something magic, the kingdom's magic networks should have been able to detect it. He asked if there were any indications that the Goblin Emperor was in the forest, and the secret course mentioned that there was a declining number of regular goblins in the area, which prompted the guild to post jobs to conduct an investigation, and on the off chance that this wasn't an isolated incident, they have gone through the trouble of compiling every strange occurrence that has happened within the past few months. The prince thanks them and asks that they keep investigating in case anything else happens so they can report to him, and at the same time, Noor and Lynne reporting to the guild to claim their reward. The guild master asked Noor how his first goblin hunt went, and still thinking the Goblin Emperor was a regular goblin. Noor says it was a lot harder than he expected it to be, and if Lynne hadn't been there to back him up, he has no idea what he would have done. The guild master laughs and assumes that Noor must have been hiding the whole time while Lynne did all the work, and Noor is too humble to give himself any credit, so he says Lynne was indeed the one who finished it off, but he wishes he had known the red stone on the goblin's forehead would be a weak spot earlier. Guildmaster has no idea what Noor is talking about since regular goblins don't have magic stones on their heads, so he asked if what they thought was really just a goblin, and as far as Noor knows, all goblins are 12 feet tall, so he says it was a normal goblin and Guildmaster takes his word for it. The paperwork is officially complete, so now they just need to provide the proof of the goblin kill. However, that's when they remember that Lynne burned the body's ashes, so there's nothing for them to present this proof. The story continues. We see Rain puzzles the reports from the Capital Corps about strange occurrences happening within their territories. He realizes that he underestimated the enemy's invasion of their lands, so he orders the assembly of an investigation unit. He asks the Corps to include everyone who can use uncover and detect concealment skills so the occurrence at the Forest of Beasts doesn't repeat itself. He also orders for the 6 sovereigns because he deems the situation an emergency. The Corps is surprised he's summoning all 6 sovereigns, but he tells them to carry out his orders because time is of the essence. He kicks himself for his oversight, which has given the Magic Empire the upper hand to invade their country. He wonders what his country did to trigger such a hostile action from the Magic Empire. He's pissed off that the Magic Empire has little regard for human life because all they care for is the treasures in the dungeon. He realizes that the Magic Empire would raise the capital to the ground just to have unlimited access to the dungeon. Noor sits with Lynne as they have lunch in an open restaurant. She expresses her joy because the old master gave them their reward, though they had forgotten to bring proof of taking down monsters. The old master rewarded them to congratulate them on their first successful hunt. Though Noor hesitated to be paid, the old master convinced him to accept it. Noor loved the food's taste now more than ever because he was celebrating, but worried about how long Lynne intended to keep following him. He thought her family should be worried about her well-being because she had been with him for too long. Lynne thanks the chef for the meal and she informs Noor that she's heading home. She asked him for permission to return home, which makes Noor relieved. He gladly gives her permission and thanks her for being of great help to him. Lynne pledges to keep doing right by him. Rain approaches them after searching for them around the capital. While Lynne is shocked to see him publicly, Rain asks Noor for a favor to take Lynne to a town in the mountains the next day. Noor is surprised by the request. Rains explains that he can't give Noor the full details, but pleads with him because he needs his help. He informs that arrangements have been made to get them a carriage to the location, and Noor asks if he's transporting something. Rain promises to compensate Noor adequately because he's the only one he can trust, and Noor has no choice but to accept. Rain submits a formal quest at the guild, which surprised the old master because the reward was very generous. The next day, Noor sets out with Lynne. Though the quest's reward enticed him, Noor only accepted it because he wanted to try riding a carriage for the first time. He takes in the scenery as they begin their journey. This was the best reward Noor could get because he had never ventured out of the capital. He was hopeful he would see another country on the way to the location. He suddenly notices Lynne's long face and wonders why she isn't interested in the scenery despite the flowers in full bloom. Noor hoped he would be able to set out on his journeys when he became an adventurer. Lynne apologizes to Noor for the sudden nature messenger of the quest from her brother. Noor tells her he'll take it as her repayment for saving him during the goblin hunt. He tells her the quest is an inconvenient because he will be paid. Lynne recalls how Rain directed them to take the carriage to the city of Tauros, which is up in the mountains, and stay there for some time. While Noor was eager to start the journey, Lynne didn't share in his optimism. Rain instructed them to head deeper into the mountains to the holy theocracy of Mithra. If their visit to Tauros was uneventful, Noor was surprised that all he had to do was tag along with Lynne, and Rain told him to consider it a vacation trip as nothing happened. Lynne hopes that nothing will happen when they arrive, and Ines assures her that nothing will happen as long as she's present. Rain gave Ines a special assignment after informing her that the capital was about to be overrun. He instructed her to flee to the holy kingdom of Mithra if the capital fell to the enemy's forces. Ines asked Rain if Lynne knew why she was sent to Mithra, and he told her he kept it secret from Lynne because she would have refused to go if he told her the reason. Ines expressed concern that she would be away when the capital needed her, but Rain told her Lynne takes priority because she's the only one she can entrust to her care. He pleaded with her to accompany Lynne to safety, and Ines accepted his request. They stopped beside a stream to take a break, and Ines pulls Noor's sign. She apologizes to him for the inconvenience, but Noor tells her to stop making such a fuss because it's just a trip. He notices she looks under the weather, and she explains that she is lost in thought. She assures him that he's safe with her, but Noor tells her he isn't worried about her safety because he's very good at running away. She tells him he doesn't have to run because she has her shield with her, but Noor doesn't see her carrying a shield. She explains that it's more convenient to keep the shield hidden. She summons her shield, to Noor's bewilderment, and explains that he won't be harmed if he hides behind her shield. Noor is convinced of Ines' strength, as he recalls that Lynne said she's as strong as Gilbert, who he sparred with. Lynne told him Gilbert could take down a dragon on his own, which made him realize Gilbert and Ines were far stronger than him. He's disappointed that he struggled to take down a single goblin, as he commends Ines for being talented. This triggers memories of when Ines realized she had a mysterious power after the orphanage took her in. When her power first appeared, another orphanage tried testing it out, but she hurt herself instead. The headmaster met with Ines after he tended to the heart orphan and asked her to show them her powers. Ines showed off her powers, which Oaken regarded as a gift from the heavens because it was rare. He explained that she could generate a sword that could cut through anything and a shield that could defend against anything. He informed her that she could destroy a nation, which frightened her, but Dandalg, a member of the 6 sovereigns, promised to teach her how to use her powers so she wouldn't hurt anyone else. Though he trained her to use her gifts, Ines couldn't overcome the fear of hurting other people, so she isolated herself from them. She became a recluse who didn't care about other people's feelings and behavior. She remained a recluse until she met Noor when he introduced himself, making her remember the times Dandalg mentioned that name during her training. Back then, the enemies attacked incessantly, and Dandalg was always summoned to the front lines whenever they did. He always expressed how much easier things would be if he had his companion named Noor beside him. Ines was surprised that her foster father would acknowledge Noor failed to acknowledge her. Despite her best efforts, she felt betrayed by her father, but envious of Noor, an emotion that worsened now that they were on a trip together. She decides to let her emotions go so she doesn't waver as the shield of House Clays. She knew her assignment was to protect Lindbergh, even if it cost her life. As they continue their journey, Noor notices a strange path cutting through the wheat fields. He realizes the path was made by something that trampled through the wheat field. Ines notices he's distracted, so she questions him. He informs her about the path on the wheat fields and tells her that something could be moving through it. Lynne tells Ines to stop the carriage as she notices something making a pass through the wheat fields. She uses her uncover spell to reveal the concealed monster moving through the field. Meanwhile, in the capital, everyone is in a state of panic as explosions go off everywhere. King Clay knows that war has begun as a messenger rushes in to inform him that several monsters have been spotted all over the capital. He informs the king that the warrior corps have engaged the monster, but tells him they are short on troops. Rain orders him to deploy the Swordmaster Corps to barricade the roads and evacuate the citizens. He also orders the deployment of the Shadow Company and Hunter Corps to defeat as many monsters as possible so the citizens aren't harmed. King Clays can believe Darida's followed through on his threat, and Rain tells him Darida's has more tricks up his sleeves. King Clays asks for the whereabouts of the 6th Sovereign, and Rain informs him they are preoccupied with powerful monsters that were sighted in multiple areas around the capital. Dandalk faces off against an Emperor Goblin and he charges his men to hold their line with all their might. The other members of the Sixth Sovereign also engage monsters in different areas, while the wounded pretended to in safe zones. The king is worried because their forces are stretched thin, while Rain hopes Lynne made it out of the capital before the attack commenced. The monster is being led through the wheat field by a demon boy who is hell-bent on destroying the capital when its barrier is suddenly broken. Ines recognizes the monster as a black death dragon, and she wonders how such a monster arrived at the capital. Noor suddenly swings into action, despite warnings from Ines. The monster is about to attack the demon boy who has resigned herself to her fate, but Noor arrives on time to intercept the monster's attack. The monster tries to attack him several times, but he counters the attacks with his parry skill. Ines points out the boy with the Black Death Dragon to Lynne, informing her that his presence isn't a coincidence. This makes her realize the boy is a Demonfolk, as she remembers when Rain asked her if she'd heard about them. She told him what she knew about them, explaining that they look similar to humans but are demi-humans with the power to control monsters. Rain told her that the Demonfolk are a species closer to demons than humans, recalling an incident where they nearly wiped out Mithra 200 years prior. This made humans hunt them to extinction, but somehow their descendants survived. Rain was sure that their descendants would harbor unbound hatred for humankind. Lynne realizes that the demon boys led the dragon to the capital because they don't typically approach human settlements. Ines explains that the boy lost control over the monster when her uncover spell broke his concentration. She expresses how foolish Noor is for helping the enemy because he had evil intentions. Lynne offers to give Noor a hand, but Ines stops her because she thinks the dragon would defeat Noor, and Noor wasn't having any challenges with the dragon, which he thinks is a toad because it's slow and weak compared to the goblin he faced in the Forest of Beasts. He decides to hold his own against the toad until Ines and Lynne arrive to back him up. The dragon suddenly shoots a glob of poison at him, and Noor stands his ground because he knows the boy would get hurt if he dodges it. He tries to deselect it but gets hit by the poison, which takes effect immediately. Noor's vision begins to blur as his body doesn't respond anymore. He recalls Ines calling him when he left the carriage, realizing she was trying to warn him that the toad was poisonous. Ines tells Lynne the dragon earned the name of Black Death Dragon because it brings death to anything it touches with its black poison. The dragon is about to release another glob of poison, which spurs Lynne to try to help Noor, but Ines stops her with her shield. Lynne demands that Ines let her go, but she refuses, explaining that she must keep her safe. Ines assures her that they will remain safe behind her shield, explaining to Lynne that it's pointless to help Noor because the dragon's poison is fatal. The dragon releases a more powerful blast of poison, and Ines uses her shield to protect herself and Lynne from its effect. Lynne tries to use her purified magic to help Noor, but it's ineffective against the dragon's poison blast. Ines apologies for leaving Noor at the dragon's mercy because she couldn't protect him despite wanting to. The poison clears up, and Ines is surprised that Noor is still fighting the dragon in his poison state. She now realizes why Dandalk always wished that Noor was beside him, because he is a true hero who protects others even at the cost of his own life. She knew that his actions were pointless because he had already inhaled the poison, but he continued to stand against the dragon. The dragon releases a poison blasted at him, but he blows it away with his sword. The dragon takes a swipe at him and he defends it with his sword, but his knees suddenly give way and he falls to the ground. He wipes the poison from his mouth, realizing that all hope is not lost. We get a little backstory on the Demonfolk boy, and from the day he and all the other so-called cursed children were born, they have been ostracized from the world for their ability to control monsters. They were all locked away in a cell and given disgusting food for their meals. The monster control ability has always been around, and it used to be one that was just used to control livestock, but at some point, someone decided to start controlling monsters and use them to fight in a war, so the power has been hated ever since then. While in prison, the boy was given daily beatings for no reason, and upon asking what he did to deserve such cruel treatment, he was just beating even more until he could hardly be recognized, and on top of that, he was given no food for 3 whole days. After that, he learned to not talk back anymore. If he wanted to minimize the pain he would suffer, he was later put on display for the townspeople to insult and attack as they please. This was the way Demonfolk were normally treated, but for the boy it was much worse because he had the ability to read minds, so he could hear all their cruel thoughts at the same time. Once people figured out that he could read minds, they began to hate him in particular, and would be even more violent towards him than usual. But even through all that suffering, with thought of revenge never once crossed his mind. He hated his situation, but he still didn't like the idea of hurting other people. However, one day his captor instructed him to take control of 2 monsters and use them to attack a neighboring kingdom. He tried to persuade the boy to do it by offering him to reduce his daily beatings to bi-weekly beatings, and he would even throw in some slightly less moldy bread too, but if the boy refused, that he would be treated much worse than he already is. The boy tried to read the mind of his captor to figure out what his plan was, but the man was wearing a magic device that prevented mind reading, so the boy was forced to take his word for it and agree to the deal out of fear for his life and the others like him. That's why he was determined to use the monster to kill the people of the kingdom, but along the way the barrier around him was shattered and he lost focus for a second, so the monster managed to escape his control. And as he tries to regain control, the frog knocks him back and he realizes he has messed up. Because of his failure, the other demon folk are probably going to suffer a lot more than they did before, but while he feels bad for them, he's at least happy that he gets to die without being forced to kill anyone, since he never wanted to cause other people pain. He just hopes that if he gets reborn, he won't be treated so badly in his next life. Maybe he could even have a kind family and eat good food, so he closes his eyes and gets ready to embrace death. However, before he could be killed, Noor stepped in to defend him. The boy couldn't understand why someone from the kingdom would risk their life to save him, and as the frog fired its poison, both Noor and the boy were hit with a heavy dose. However, while Noor had the option of using his basic healing magic on himself to negate the poison, he chose to use it to save the boy instead while he kept fighting. Before long, Noor ended up collapsing due to all the poison in his system, but he is still confident that he can get through this. Noor's confidence comes from a timeless childhood. After his mother had died and he had returned to his home, he went out into the forest one day to gather some ingredients for dinner that night, and after spending all day in the forest, he had gathered quite a collection of herbs. He wasn't sure where all the herbs were exactly, but what's the worst that could happen if he just chucks it all into his soup for dinner? This is the worst that could happen. Noor is currently bleeding out on the floor because the soup turned out to be highly poisonous, and with no one around to help him, he was bound to die if he didn't do something to save himself quickly, so he used his low heal ability to try to recover a little. Thankfully, the low heal allowed him to survive until morning, and once he's finally able to stand again, he heads outside to wash his face, and then heads to the library to figure out what he just ate. He realizes that the red herb he brought is called Dragon Ruin, and his mom had even once specifically warned him never to eat it, so he can't believe he made such a stupid mistake, but being poisoned isn't going to be enough to him to stop working. Noor troubles with all his might to make it outside so he could keep up with his daily training, but the poison had greatly weakened him, so he ends up falling to the ground in pain. He uses low heal once more to try making himself feel better, and to his surprise, he wakes up a hole later after blacking out, and he's feeling a lot better than before. His stomach doesn't hurt anymore, which is a good thing, but he can also now tell that he's incredibly hungry, so he heads back into the forest to find something to eat. As he does this, he is very careful not to pick another Dragon Ruin implant, and while he's definitely not going to make the same mistake again, as he's inspecting the plant, he is bitten in the ass by a poison-spiked snake. He manages to punch it to death, but the snake is known to be extremely venomous, so Noor soon collapses to the ground because of it. However, while any ordinary person would have already been dead by now, Noor wakes up a couple hours later, and he seems to be perfectly fine once again. He could hardly believe that he survived that, and since he already killed the snake, he decides to take it home and try eating it. He figured that if he was able to survive the snake's bite, then he can't possibly face any negative side effects from getting bitten, and this time he's right, since the poison doesn't have much of an effect on him, and it actually turns out to be quite delicious. The following day, Noor heads out to test this hypothesis, so he finds another poison spike and forces it to bite him so that he can see what happens. And just like he had thought, the venom seems to be spreading through his body a lot slower than it did yesterday, so he believed he had acquired some kind of poison resistance. He was excited since he believed this may be the key to unlocking some kind of new skill, so Noor began intentionally seeking out poisonous things to eat in hopes of gaining a new skill. He would end up collapsing from a poison overdose on occasion, but he would always get back up and keep eating, no matter how much blood he lost in the process. He never did gain any poison-related skills, but through poisonous meal intake he ended up really liking the taste of poisonous things, which is why right now, even though he's being threatened by the monster, he can only think about how good the frog is going to taste after he kills it. The frog tries to squish him, but Noor backflips out of the way in time, gets back on his feet. At first, since the frog's poison is pretty strong, it took a while for Noor's body to naturally counteract it, which is why he collapsed for a second there, but by now he has had enough time to become totally immune to the frog's poison attacks, so he begins fighting again. As he parries, the frog strikes Noor, ends up destroying all of its claws, and as it tries jumping at him, he parries his face and shatters all its teeth as well. The frog is now realized that it won't be able to handle Noor normally, so it starts charging up a huge poison blast, and Noor assumes this must be a frog's desperate attempt at survival. However, it's nothing but a free meal, so before it can release the poison, Noor uses his sword to slam its mouth shut, causing all the poison to build up inside its body and make the frog explode. Noor is glad he managed to defeat it, but he can't help but wonder how such a poisonous frog got all the way out into this field in the first place, but it worked out for him, since the more poison something has, the more tasty it is for Noor. Just then he remembers as there's a kid behind him, so he turns around to ask the boy if he's alright. The boy answers that he's fine, but he goes pretty sickly to Noor, so if he wants to have Lynne properly heal him once they are done here, he asks the boy what he's doing out here, and the boy doesn't want to lie, so he tells Noor that he's the one who brought the frog here. He did it because you promised that he would get the frog into the city. The gears start turning in Noor's head as he tries to think of an explanation for what the boy just said, and since he is such a fan of poisonous food, he only thinks of the Black Death Dragon as livestock to be eaten, leading him to the conclusion that the boy must be a frog farmer. He also decides that the boy must have been hiding himself in a barrier because he didn't want to get robbed of his deliciously poisonous frog meat. So now Noor believes he ruined the boy's meat delivery, and he begins apologizing profusely for it. He offers to pay the boy back for the frog meat even if it takes him a couple years, but the boy tells Noor that there's no need for that since it doesn't matter to him. Noor accepts this, but he's still curious as to how a young boy like him managed to get that frog this far in the first place. The boy hesitantly answers that he has the ability to control monsters, so that's what he used to bring the monster here. Noor thinks the boy must have some kind of amazing skill to be able to do that, but the boy clarifies that it's not a skill, rather it's an ability he was born with. The boy also tells Noor that he's a Demonfolk, while he was expecting Noor to become hostile towards him. Noor just begins pondering all the things he would do if he had those kinds of powers. For one, he would be able to have animals help him in the fields, he would be able to send messages with birds, and he would never need to worry about getting attacked by a monster at night again, so he kind of wishes he had that ability as well. The boy asks Noor, he really isn't scared of him and his ability, but Noor doesn't see a reason why he should be scared since the boy has an ability that is super useful. The boy is shocked to learn that Noor thinks his ability is useful, so if he breaks down in tears because he never believed his life could have such meaning to it. Noor sees a lot of himself and the boy, but he doesn't understand why he has so little self-worth when he has such a great skill. He assumes there must be some extenuating circumstances involved, but he knows the boy will be able to become a great person someday, so he assures the kid that he has a bright future ahead of him. Just then the others come running over to check on Noor, and Lynne wants to begin healing him immediately, but Noor says he's perfectly fine, so she doesn't need to worry. Lynne can't believe Noor is actually alright after taking the hit from the Black Death Dragon, since the dragon's breath isn't just poisonous, it is an extreme concentration of miasma that would corrupt even the soil, so how on earth could Noor have withstood it? There's only one explanation she can think of, so she recalls how the Saint Sovereign once showed her a technique known as Sacred Spirit. It is one that is achieved by honing the body and mind, and once perfected, it can be used to negate all forms of corruption and purify everything the user touches. It took Saint 40 years to acquire, yet Noor achieved it in less than half the time and he doesn't even realize it. Noor then asked Lynne if she could heal his new friend here, but the boy says he doesn't need any healing either since he's perfectly unharmed. After getting one look at him, Lynne can immediately tell that the boy is Demonfolk, but Noor doesn't see why there should be a problem, so he was hoping they would allow the boy to join them in the carriage, so they can give him a ride. From what Lynne knows, Demonfolk are a terrifying race that most countries would recommend killing on sight, so she asked Noor if he's really okay with bringing the boy with him, even after he brought a monster and caused a disaster like this. Noor admits that it's unfortunate that the field got destroyed, but feels like you should help the kid out since he killed the poison frog he worked so hard to bring here. By the way, Noor remembers the boy saying he promised someone that he would bring the frog here, but who exactly was this person? The boy tells him that he isn't sure since they never let him get that information, and Ines can tell that he isn't lying. Furthermore, by the state of his body and the way he acts, Ines can tell that he must have been a slave wherever he came from. Slavery is outlawed in the Kingdom of Clays, but the same can't be said about the other countries, so she realizes that the boy was probably forced to do this. She asks soon as she remembers the way back to where he came from, but the boy was blindfolded before getting dropped off in the middle of nowhere and being told to head in this direction. Lynne now realizes she may have misjudged the boy, so she asks Ines if they can take Rolo on their journey after all, but there's one major problem with that idea, and it's the fact that Demonfolk are banned from entering Mithra at all, so if they try to take the Rolo there it may be seen as enemies. Just then they hear a voice from behind them, and they see a man standing there who is surprised because he expected Rolo to have died already. The story continues. We see the man also notices that Rolo messed up his job of delivering the frog, and since he seems to know about the delivery, Noor asks the man if he is the one who ordered Rolo to do this. The man says it wasn't him, he is just someone who was hired to take out Rolo and aid the progress of the mission. He asks Noor if he is the one who killed the frog. Noor confirms that it was him, and he apologizes since he still thinks the frog was meant to be eaten, but the man tells him that he doesn't care about the frog, he was just hired to get Rolo. Noor misunderstands this to mean that the man is here to pick up Rolo, and he's not wrong, but the man's intentions are nowhere near innocent. In the next moment, the man disappears and appears behind the group. Noor parries his attack, but he is confused as to why the man attacked out of nowhere, and the man realizes that Noor isn't going to be an easy opponent to beat, so he takes a step back and calmly asks to Noor he would be willing to hand the boy over to him without a fight. Rolo is apparently worth a lot of money, but only as a corpse, so since Noor obviously isn't going to just let him kill Rolo, the man strikes again. Noor were still having a hard time understanding why the man will want to kill Rolo, so the man explains that he could also bring Rolo back alive, but his client would still murder him anyway, so why go through all that trouble? If anything, he thinks he's doing Rolo a favor by ending his life quickly, but Noor still doesn't get what's going on. The man gives up on trying to explain things and tries to jump over Noor's head to strike Rolo, but Noor manages to keep up with him and knocks the assassin back, breaking his dagger in the process. Both Noor and the assassin are moving so fast that Lynne can barely keep track of them, so Ines tries to keep her close by to protect her, in case they get caught in the crossfire. The assassin's starting to get really annoyed with how tough Noor is, so he pulls out some more daggers and attempts to strike at him multiple times, but Noor manages to defend against each and every one of those strikes and pushes him back against. He now sees Noor as a genuine obstacle to the success of his mission, so he's going to start seriously trying to kill him. He dashes forward at an insane speed and attempts to stab Noor in the face, but Noor once again manages to parry the attack, although it sends him flying backward. Once Noor regains his footing, he remarks that it is incredible that someone can generate that much force in a single strike at such a small knife. The assassin is surprised. Noor was able to block a serious attack for him, and furthermore he even shattered another one of the assassin's daggers, and the assassin thinks that he is really interesting. He pulls out another dagger and dashes in to attempt to overwhelm Noor, but despite his best efforts, Noor is still holding his ground. However, at this rate Noor isn't going to be able to last much longer while protecting Rolo, as he can't keep up with the assassin's attacks based on instinct alone. The pressure from their fight is so intense that Ines had to put up their shields, so that Lynne won't be in danger of getting caught in the chaos. It took a while, but she finally recognized as the assassin. His fashion sense matches up with the former S-rank adventurer, the dead man Zadu. A while ago, Ines walked into a meeting with all the sovereigns and she was curious about some old documents she found. It's about a target that was declared to be officially dead, but she doesn't recall ever seeing anyone going to deal with this person. The sovereigns tell her that it's better to leave that mission alone and just declare the target dead, because actually going after him would be too much of a challenge. The target was Zadu, who became an S-ranked adventurer at a young age, but his actions led him to become a wanted man. However, he is too strong for any of them to be willing to risk going after him, so they decided to just leave him alone as long as he is not causing trouble in the kingdom. Gilbert was interested to learn more about Zadu since he's apparently strong enough to have the other sovereigns scared to fight him, so the wizard begins to explain the story of Zadu. As a child, Zadu had already mastered the art of dwarven alchemy, and by the age of 13, he had already killed his first dragon. After that, his abilities became known far across the land, so much so that he became the apex of all heroes. However, while it sounds like Zadu was a perfect hero, he never had an Uncle Ben, so he began using his powers irresponsibly. For instance, he once murdered 36 members of a merchant family, and it's almost unheard of for an adventurer to kill ordinary people, so those emotions stripped Zadu of his adventurer's license. However, While on the one hand he did kill a bunch of people, on the other hand, the dude could one-shot a dragon, so they weren't willing to risk making an enemy out of him. Ultimately, the matter of Zadu's punishment was postponed and he faced no repercussions. Zadu is someone who will accept any job, no matter how evil or depraved it may be. All he cares about is the money he is paid. In fact, he once literally destroyed an entire country at the request of the client. He killed every member of their army and then slaughtered the entire royal family. Therefore, in order to prevent any further casualties, the guild decided to pretend he has already been killed so that no one would risk attacking him again. Back with Zadu, he has just lost another dagger and he is upset because he has almost used up his entire collection in this fight against Noor. Noor apologizes for ruining all of Zadu's daggers, but he says Zadu is partially to blame for attacking out of nowhere like this. Zadu says it's fine since he wasn't looking for an apology, but he still thinks it is really strange that his daggers keep breaking since they are all made orichalcum and dragon tusk and they should make it practically indestructible. Furthermore, he has a lot of questions about the sword Noor is using because it is unlike anything he has ever seen before. He decides that it's better to play it safe for today, so he uses his trump card and throws his ultimate weapon into the air. As he does so, it begins to glow red and in a flash of red light, unlimited blade works has been activated. There are thousands of blades now all point straight at Noor, and no matter how many of them Noor manages to destroy, Zadu can always just make more of them. Noor tries his best to parry all the crosses, but there are simply too many of them, so he's forced to let himself get stabbed in order to protect Rolo. Ines realizes that there are too many crosses being thrown at Noor, so she wants to go help, but before she does, she stops herself because her mission is to ensure that Lynne makes it his safety, so she should leave Lynne's side for any reason. However, after giving it some more thought, she decides to go help Noor after all. As Noor continues to struggle against the barrage of countless crosses, he realizes he won't be able to counter the incoming attack, so he braces himself for the inevitable stabbing. However, to his surprise, Ines steps in at the last second and stops the crosses with her shield. Her mission may be to protect Lynne, but she also realizes that Noor far stronger than her and by extension, having him around would greatly improve Lynne's chances of surviving any threats they come across, so she refuses to let him die here. She uses some of her shields to attack Zadu and Noor is really impressed. But while it's certainly keeping him busy, it doesn't look like any of her attacks are ever going to touch Zadu. He just crosses are managing to evade Ines's attacks, so she asks Noor if he can help her out a little. She can handle their defense for now, but she doesn't have the speed necessary to take down Zadu, which is why she needs Noor to do it. Nor is it sure he can handle blades that are moving this fast, but then again he has managed to hit birds that move faster than this, so he might be able to pull it off. He picks up one of the broken claws from the frog and tells Ines that he has an idea, so on his signal he wants her to drop the shield that she put directly in front of him. Noor gives the signal and Ines drops some of the shields to give him a clearing to attack. With a couple of dragon claws in his hand, Noor activates his physical enhancement and stone throw abilities, and the combination basically turns his arm into an anti-aircraft missile launcher as the claw fragments destroy all the crosses headed their way. Noor still has plenty of ammunition, so as he reloads he asks Ines to drop the shield again and he proceeds to destroy even more of Zadu's crosses. It looks like they are making steady progress against him, and while she was paying attention, Zadu sneaks up behind Ines and nearly stabs her straight in the eye, but it's the last second. Noor successfully parries the attack, breaking yet another one of Zadu's daggers. That attack looked like it was really close, but for Noor it was barely challenged to block it. Zadu can't believe Noor is able to react to his attacks that quickly, and then he managed to break a dagger made of adamantite. Noor once again apologizes for destroying such a valuable dagger, but it's still Zadu's fault for attacking first. Zadu says he doesn't need an apology, but he needs to make up for all the money he lost on those destroyed daggers. He tries attacking Noor again, but Noor successfully blocks and breaks another dagger. Zadu asks Noor how he's managing to see who all his attacks, but Noor can't really explain his methods, he just kind of knows how to react. Zadu feels like there has to be some secret behind Noor's power, but he will have to find out some other day because for now he's done. After all the blades Noor destroy, Zadu is going to have to go through a lot of effort to recover the mithril needed to replace them all, and he doesn't want to lose any more blades, so he's going to give up on collection the reward for Rolo. He was also going to head over to the kingdom since he heard there's something interesting going on over there, but he put a hold on that as well. Ines asking what he means by something interesting at the kingdom, and Zada doesn't know the details. He just knows that it is going to be really extravagant. He calls over Rolo and tells him that he is lucky Noor is here because no matter what kind of attack he tries, Noor is always one step ahead of him. He even tries going for one last sneak attack, but predictably, Noor blocks it with ease. Zadu won't be able to complete his mission while Noor is around, so he takes a step back and just teleports away with his magic. Noor breathes a sigh of relief now that Zadu is gone, but Lynne has some concerns about the event that is apparently taking place in the capital. Noor asked if she wants to head back to the capital and then if she is so curious about what's going on, but as soon as he mentions the world capital, Rolo starts to shiver in fear. Before he was tasked for transporting the Black Death Dragon, he heard his captors talking about how a terrifying monster was going to be sent to the capital, one that would make the Black Death Dragon look like a tiny frog. Hearing this, Lynne says they need to hurry back to the capital immediately because the situation is more dire than she had initially thought it was. She asked Noor if he is willing to come with her back to the capital, and Noor is fine with it, but Ines tells them that they can't go. She's about to tell Lynne about the orders she got from Rain, but Lynne already knows about it. Rain had told her that she should escape with Lynne if anything ever happened in the capital. Lynne didn't hear from him directly, but she knows how Rain thinks, so she's well aware of what he would want, but she can't accept the plan for her to be the only one to escape. That means the kingdom would still be in danger while she escaped, and she can't let something like that happen. This is the exact same thing that happened to the Demonfolk when their homeland was destroyed, so if Lynne doesn't do anything now, it will surely suffer the same fate. Ines eventually agrees to go back, but she wants Lynne to promise not to leave her side. Rolo says he will go too since he feels partially responsible for the incident, so he wants to help resolve it. Noor pat Rolo on the head for being so responsible, and Lynne notices the profound look Noor's face, so she thinks he must be having a deep moment of self-reflection, but in reality he's just regretting the fact that he never got to taste the poison frog. Back at the capital, the city lies in ruins, but thanks to the efforts of the 6 sovereigns, they have managed to hold their ground. The problem now is that Rain doesn't know where the next attack will be coming from. It could be from the north to south, or maybe even above, but according to the reports there have been no sightings of flying beasts nearby. That may be what the reports say, but Rain notices something up in the sky, so he casts their uncover spell. And to his horror he finds a dragon looming over the city, and it's not just any dragon either, it's a dragon of calamity. The story continues. We see the title of Dragon Slayer was given to the hero from Noor's storybook, after he killed an evil dragon that has been terrorizing the lands. Noor was so impressed by this that he said he wanted to slay a dragon as well, but his father told him that slaying a dragon is no easy feat. Some dragons are incredibly strong and have lived for thousands of years, so single one could easily reduce mountains to rubble, or destroy an entire continent. Back to the present, as Noor and the others are heading back to the capital, Noor notices something off, so he tells everyone that he has a feeling there's a monster nearby. The others don't see anything, but Noor can clearly sense something and even points towards it, and a moment later, the Dragon of Calamity was revealed. As it loomed over the city, people began to panic, and Rain couldn't believe the Empire would be dumber enough to unleash something like this upon the world, just because they didn't get to steal the dungeons here. The Dragon of Calamity is said to have gone to sleep 150 years ago, which means it should still be in its hibernation period for at least another few centuries, but the Empire chose to wake it up and put it on a path that would lead to the destruction of the kingdom. Rain orders everyone that came to take shelter in the capital to evacuate immediately, but from the rooftops, the Bow's sovereign senses magic being used to block off the evacuation roads, and this was done to keep each of the sovereigns busy so they can't night to face the dragon. The king is looking out the window as certain doom approaches, and Gilbert tries to convince him that he should evacuate as well, but the king tells him to go help evacuate the citizens and make sure they are safe, but he has his own duty to fulfill, so he can't leave the capital yet. Ines watches as the dragon flies over the city, and it will undoubtedly lead to the total destruction of the capital, so they must have already begun evacuation efforts in order to get the citizens out safely, but Lynne knows that her father would never evacuate. He would likely use himself as a shield between the dragon and his people. But even someone as powerful as the king stands absolutely no chance against that dragon. Lynne is devastated that both the kingdom and her family will be destroyed, but Noor is just amazed since this is the first time he has ever seen a dragon before. The other one was a dragon, but Noor still thinks it was just a farm frog. He asked Lynne and her father and brother are still in the capital, and she's sure they will choose to stay behind and make sure everyone makes it to safety, but it's too late for them to help now because they are still so far away from the kingdom. Noor doesn't think the distance is that much of a problem since he can probably make it if he runs, but Lynne is shocked to hear that Noor thinks he can make it since the kingdom is still nearly 100 kilometers away, and it's going to be destroyed in a couple of minutes. He says they can use the same trick they used against the goblin in the forest, so he wants Lynne to hit him with the strongest wind blast she can generate, and he will do the rest. He owes a lot to the people of that city, so he wants to at least help the rain and the king escape if he can, and if Noor says he can make it, then Lynne decides to put her faith in him and stop hesitating. The king recalls the meeting he had with the emperor, where the emperor threatened to crush the kingdom if he didn't get what he wanted, but the king didn't budge and told him that he would never give up the Dungeon of the Lost. The emperor says such a valuable resource is wasted in the hands of the king, and if he were to fully utilize the power within it, he could easily control the world, but the king believes it's best to not interfere with powers he can't control. The emperor clearly had a different stance because the dragon is certainly not controllable, but it looks like the emperor doesn't care about what happens as long as he ends up getting that dungeon in the end. The king underestimated how ruthless the emperor could be, so he could do things differently. He might have just let him have the dungeon to begin with. However, what's done is done, and the only thing he can think of is if Lynne managed to make it to safety in the end. He doesn't think he's fit to be king of a nation like this, as he is much more suited to a life on the battlefield. He apologizes to the people of the kingdom, who have been doomed because they followed him, and while it may not be enough to atone for his mistakes, the king is going to make sure that before he dies, he takes out one that dragon's eyes. Back in Noor's groups, Ines uses her divine shield to create a cylinder to focus Lynne's wind blast and ask Noor to stand in front of it. Once he does, Lynne prepares herself and casts every magic barrier she knows how to make on the cylinder to make sure no energy is wasted. Noor was the one who suggested this idea, but he's starting to second guess himself with how dangerous this thing looks now. Once Lynne is done casting all the barriers, she tells Noor that she's about to fire the twin blast, but it will be a lot stronger than it was last time, so we should brace himself for impact. Noor asked her to hold on for a second, but it's too late. She's already put everything she has into the spell and cast his six-fold wind blast that launches Noor at least max 10. Over at the capital, the dragon goes straight up to the king, believes charging up this dragon's breath to obliterate him. This is the same flame that burnt the continent to a crisp hundreds of years ago, so there's no way they can survive a direct hit. The king realizes this himself, but even if he's going to be killed, he has to make sure he does something cool before he dies, so he pulls out his sword and prepares to hit the dragon with everything he has got. That sword is the blast sword, and it channels all the user's mana into one powerful strike, but it comes at the cost of the user's life, so it looks like the king is sacrificing himself for a chance to at least wound the dragon. However, just before the king unleashes the strike, Noor appears out of nowhere and parries the dragon's face, causing the dragon's breath be fired into the sky, and knocking the dragon to the ground. The dragon has no idea what knocked it out, but once it regains consciousness and sees Noor standing there, it realizes that he must have been the one who did it, so it tries to crush him with his tail. However, Noor parries it and sends the dragon falling to the ground again. Noor thought he was going to die after Lynne initially shot him here, but he regained consciousness just in time for him to gain control with his physical enhancement and jump over the walls of the castle. However, he couldn't stop himself, so he ended up flying into the dragon and had to parry it. He never wants to get shot like a cannonball again, but Noor is surprised by how easy it was for him to parry the dragon, since it is supposed to be a nation-ending calamity. It's shocking how huge it is, but the impact from Lynne's wind blast was much scarier to him. He's confident that he should be able to put up a good fight against that thing, so he stands ready to fight. Meanwhile, Lynne and Ines have arrived at the capital, and they intend to rescue the king while the Noor distracts the elder dragon, but along the way a huge building piece comes hurtling towards them, causing Lynne to fall to the ground, but Ines manages to keep her safe by putting up a shield. Lynne thanks Ines for saving her life, but she looks forward. She sees several goblin emperors heading their way. These monsters are all a lot smaller than the ones she and Noor fought in the forest, but a goblin emperor is still a formidable monster, so she doesn't know how they're going to handle them. She needs to start thinking like Noor would, so she tells herself that these are just regular goblins, so it should be easy to take them down. Ines understands what Lynne is trying to say, and it's true that the goblin emperors really aren't that big of a threat compared to the elder dragon that Noor is currently fighting. They hold their ground, and as the goblins charge towards them, Lynne fires an ice bell at them. However, the goblins are too fast for the attacks to Lynne. Rolo realizes he has to do something, so he uses his powers and orders the monsters to stand still, and the goblins all freeze in place. Lynne takes the opportunity to use ice magic to freeze the goblins in place, while Ines uses her power to create a sword and slash through them all. With that, they have successfully slain the Goblin Emperors, and Lynne's really impressed with Ines because not only is she worthy of being known as the Divine Shield, but she can also cut down any foe with her Divine Sword. And then there's Rolo, who is able to stop those Goblin Emperors with just a few words. She knows he's a Demonfolk, but the fact that a boy like him has so much power is insane. Meanwhile, the dragon is having an existential crisis over the fact that this tiny human is parrying every attack he throws at him, and even more despite the dragon's claws and scales being supposedly indestructible. Noor is slowly chipping away at it and causing damage to the dragon, and Noor is barely breaking the sweat. Noor is impressed that his sword still isn't even slightly damaged after all the parrying he has been doing, so he's starting to wonder what this thing is made of. The Dryad realizes it won't be able to beat Noor with physical attacks, but that doesn't mean it will lose since it has an attack that its short Noor won't be able to parry. The dragon flies into the air and begins charging up another dragon's breath attack, which it fires straight at Noor, but Noor is in phase and parries it anyway. We all knew it was coming, but Noor has officially parried in nuke. The dragon can't believe what just happened, and Rolo can tell that it's angry, but also frustrated because Noor isn't treating it as a serious threat, even though it's trying its best to be destructive. The elder dragon is a prideful beast that believes it is the most powerful creature, so for Noor to be countering it so easily as a real blow to its ego. So it desperately tries to attack in one last time the asserted strength, but Noor once again parries his attack and breaks one of the dragon's claws in the process, which was the moment the dragon realized that Noor is simply stronger than it, so it's on the ground and submits to Noor. Everyone who just witnessed this is speechless, and Noor doesn't really know what's going on either, but it looks like the dragon doesn't want to fight anymore, so it is his victory. He recalls the story from his youth and how the hero in his book killed the dragon and used the materials from it to bring wealth and prosperity to the land, but even though this dragon caused so much damage, Noor can't bring himself to kill it, so he just sits down in front of it. The story continues. We see Lynne and Ines run over to Noor, worried that he's hurt, but Noor assures them that he's alright. Noor assumes that Rolo caused the dragon to calm down after speaking to it, so he thanks him for saving him. Rolo tells Noor he has no hand in the dragon's behavior, and Noor is puzzled, wondering why the dragon stopped being hostile so suddenly. Noor still thinks Rolo had something to do with it, but Rolo protests, telling him he didn't say anything to the dragon. This makes Noor remember that Rolo told him people are scared of him because of his powers, so he decides to drop the matter so others don't hear about it. He asks Rolo for a favor, requesting he send the dragon home, but Ines insists that the dragon should be put down because it's dangerous. Noor understands her point of view, knowing that he's supposed to end the dragon so it doesn't cause harm in the future, but he tells her he wants to avoid finishing the dragon off. Noor asks them to be considerate of his selfish request, and after a moment's hesitation, Lynne grants his request. She asks Rolo if he can do it, but Rolo isn't sure he can control the dragon because of its size. He tells her it will only be possible if he asks the dragon nicely, and it decides to leave. Noor assures Rolo that neither Ines nor Lynne is scared of him, which gives him the courage to face the dragon. He walks up to it, and the dragon tells him he will do whatever his master orders. Rolo relays this information to Noor, who is surprised that the dragon considers Rolo his masters. Ines and Lynne are also surprised that the dragon acknowledged Rolo as its master. Rolo asks for advice, and Noor advises him to tell the dragon to return to its home quietly. He also tells him to instruct the dragon never to harm humans again. Rolo instructs the dragon accordingly, and it immediately gets back to its feet. Rolo tells Noor that the dragon agreed to their request, and Noor is impressed that Rolo was able to get the dragon to cooperate. The dragon spreads its wings and takes flight, releasing a terrifying roar to mark its departure. It leaves the capital, and Noor walks over to Rolo, relieved that the dragon is gone. To his surprise, a beam suddenly cuts across the sky, hitting the dragon and sending it to the ground. The Empire Deridas uses his binoculars to observe the pitiful sight of the fallen dragon. He is impressed that he can control such a huge dragon as his pawn despite it being over 1,000 years old. He looks over at the capital with his binoculars, and he's disappointed because he hopes it will be nothing but rubble after the dragon's attack. He lays his disappointment aside and orders as commander to begin their frontal attack on the capital. The commander rushes to the ledge and summons the Empire soldiers with heavy military artillery. A content smile crosses Deridas' face as he marvels at the strength of his army. He recalls when his advisor assured him the army would take down the capital. His advisor also told him about a beast tamer that awakened the Dragon of Calamity ready for their command. Though Deridas disagreed with the price for the army, he realized the cost was worth it after being briefed by his advisor. His advisor told him their forces would march into the capital after the dragon had laid waste to it, wielding magic shield and swords, while their elite troops have magic armor and controlled the magic cannons. His advisor told him they would have 3 mana generation devices and 4 high-output mana ray weapons on the battlefield to boost their military power. Daridas was impressed with their forces, confident they would overrun the capital without problems. Randius, an army captain, suddenly walked up and bowed before Daridas, requesting an audience. Daridas asked him why he wanted an audience, and Randius told him the war wouldn't benefit their country in the long run because they were expending too many resources. Daridas shut him up before he finished his sentence because Randius annoyed him with his moralities. Randius begged Daridas to reconsider his decision, but Daridas got up from his throne and made the captain kiss his boots as he slammed his foot into his face. He told his forces that no one can threaten their existence while they stand at the apex of magical technology. He was determined to show the world their true power so they could get the respect they deserve. Daridas stands proudly with his army, confident they can overthrow the capital. He knows that in the future, people will tell stories of the capital and how they chose to foolishly stand against the greater power, while his army will be regarded as a humanitarian course that liberated the capital from a rule of idiocy. He is certain that he can rewrite history to tell his story because the victors write history. Meanwhile, Rolo takes Noor to the location of the fallen dragon, and Noor sympathizes with the poor beast, wondering if it's still alive. Rolo isn't certain, so he tells Noor he has to get closer to it to ascertain if the dragon is still breathing. Lynne calls out to Noor, pointing out the magical empire's forces gathered ahead of them. Daridas orders his forces to advance, but one of his captains points out Noor and the others on the hill ahead. Daridas looks at them and recognizes Lynne as the princess, wondering what she's doing on the battlefield. His captain points out that Ines, the divine sword, is beside her, and Daridas is impressed as he witnesses a living legend stand before him. He assumes the capital is still standing instead of being a pile of steaming rubble because of Ines. Daridas is determined to end her legend because he wants to usher in a new era defined by those with wisdom, not strength. He orders his army to fire the mana ray at them because he's confident its beam will melt through Ines's shield. The captain relays his order as the king marvels at the spectacle of war, anticipating the fall of Ines. The beam powers up, making Ines and Lynne frightened as they notice it is directed at them. The captain informs Daridas that the beam is primed and he gives the order to fire. The infantry soldiers fire the ray beam as a sinister smile crosses Daridas's face to mark the end of the Ines's legends. Lynne is curious about the beam, wondering what it is, but Ines tells her to stand back so she doesn't get hurt. Lynne rushes over to Rolo, grabs his hand and runs to safety. The beam approaches Ines, who stands helplessly because she's too petrified to move. Noor comes to her rescue as he steps in to deflect the beam, to the surprise of Daridas, who wonders what happened. His captain tells him they misfired because they had problems with the mana condensation. Daridas orders his incompetent soldiers to prepare another beam before Ines escapes. Noor is relieved that he was able to intervene in time to save Ines, as he wonders about the composition of the beam. He looks down at Daridas's army, dreading the moment they march for the capital. He wonders why the army is gathered, and Ines informs him that they plan to march for the capital to overthrow. Noor is surprised by this, as Lynne is distressed because she knows the royal capital's army can't hold a candle to the might of the Empire's army. Ines suggests they retreat to safety because they can't do anything against the invading army. Lynne agrees with Ines, telling her they must retreat to the capital and join Rain. She asks Noor what he plans to do, but he tells her the answer is obvious. Lynne assumes that Noor is staying back to cover their retreat, which impresses her. Noor realizes she misunderstands him and tries to tell her he's also going to make a run for it, but Ines cuts them off with a warning of the enemy's attack. Noor prepares to deflect the attack, but Ines raises her divine shield to protect them from the beams. The captain asks Daridas to take cover at the army's back lines for his safety, but Daridas tells him to ensure the job is done in his absence. Ines keeps her shield up to protect them, and Noor realizes he has to do something or they'll remain pinned down. He concludes he has to get the enemy's attention to buy the others time to escape back to the capital. Lynne isn't comfortable with Noor's idea, but Noor is certain he will make it out because he has confidence in his ability to run away from a fight. He recalls the countless times he had to run from bees while hunting for honeycombs. He assures Lynne he won't do anything reckless because he will return unhurt. Lynne realizes Noor has made his decision, so she offers to support him. Noor gives her permission and she walks up to him, preparing to cast a spell. Noor wonders if she's casting a defensive spell, but she tells him to brace for impact. Noor realizes she's casting her wind magic to propel him towards the enemy, so he tries to protest, but Lynne assures him that he'll be fine because she'll control the spell output. Noor tells Lynne he isn't desperate to give up his life, protesting against her decision to propel him towards the enemy. Rolo suddenly points out that another beam is powering up, making their hearts skip a few beats. Lynne tells Noor they're leading things to him as she casts her wind magic. Noor uses his physical enhancement spell just in time to be propelled by the magic spell. Avoiding a disaster, he squeezes through Ines's shield and deflects the little projectiles heading towards him. He keeps deflecting the projectiles as he approaches the enemy's front line. The infantry draw their sword to make a stand against Noor, but he disarms the whole army with his parry skill. He runs through the arm, disarming the soldiers and heading towards the mana rays with determination. Derridas watches from the back lines, wondering what is happening to his army as they lose their swords and shields. Noor suddenly appears before him, landing behind him with such force that he almost blows Derridas' face away. Noor runs through the Empire's army as their sword and shield return from their lunch break in the sky. They fall victim to their swords as Noor takes down the remaining forces hiding in the rear. He uses his momentum to run through the entire army, laying waste to them in seconds and destroying the mana rays like they are jigsaw pieces. He proceeds back to Derridas with the final burst of momentum and stops. Derridas looks back at Noor with fear, remembering when he scouted him standing with Ines close to the fallen dragon. He tries to understand how Noor closed the distance between them because he was so far away some seconds ago. Noor is out of breath after taking down, so he takes some time to catch his breath before looking back at Derridas with such determination that he begins to despair. He's certain that he's Noor's target because Noor isn't looking at anyone else. He wonders if Noor recognizes him as the Emperor as he says his last prayers, so Noor mistakes someone else for him. Noor begins to approach him, and in desperation Derridas remembers he has his Kaiser armor and sword made out of orichalcum. He draws his hands determined to face Noor, but his hands and legs betray him as they tremble in fear of Noor. Derridas desperately tries to make a last stand against Noor, but he brushes past him. Derridas mocks Noor for chickening out of the fight, but looks behind to see his cannons in the air. He rushes out of the way so he doesn't get crushed as the destroyed cannons crash into the ground. Derridas is humiliated as he tries to process what is unfolding before him. He wonders how his well-equipped army of over 10,000 men is now just a bunch of crybabies who want to return to their mother's arms. He wonders how his cannons and mana rays, which can withstand a dragon's breath, have been turned into pieces of scrap metal. Noor returns to Derridas, who wonders why he's toying around with him instead of putting him out of his misery. Noor plunges his sword into the ground before Derridas, and immediately recognizes it from the past. He recalls when he saw King Clay's black sword before leaving the castle after he threatened to overthrow the capital to get access to the dungeon. The sword was the most valuable relic that Derridas wanted above all others, wondering why a peasant was wielding the sword. He recalls that the sword is supposed to be too heavy for any human to carry because it is made out of an unknown metal. Even King Clay's needed both hands to use the sword despite being overpowered. Derridas can't believe there's someone who surpasses King Clay's strength. He realizes that Noor lay waste to his army all by himself, and he was only alive because Noor wants him to endure his humiliation before taking his final breath. Derridas can't believe he's on the receiving end of the things he planned to do to King Clay's. He weeps as he screams with desperation for a savior. He gets back to his feet, mounts his horse and runs away with his tail between his legs, as the image of Noor wielding the broadsword haunts him. A look back to just moments ago shows what happened from Noor's perspective. Noor managed to stop himself from getting launched, and he wondered who the old guy was. Even his horses were covered in gold armor, and the old guy just had a shocked look on his face. Noor didn't have much time to think though, because the soldiers' weapons were coming back down from the sky. The soldiers would attack him all at once if they were able to recover their weapons, so Noor kept parrying them into the sky. Noor did the same to the giant shields, and he bumped into the old man again. Noor had to keep parrying the weapons, but he also had to remind himself to stop and take a breath before passing out. Noor didn't see a reason to parry the old guy's sword because he clearly wasn't a threat. Instead, Noor just kept parrying through the army. However, Noor couldn't help but think that the old man was going to get hurt if he stayed on the battlefield. The old man wondered why Noor wasn't ending his life, but Noor wanted to show him that this wasn't his intention. Noor was too exhausted to just tell him, so he smiled at the old man instead. This backfired though, as this awkward smile was terrifying, and the old man just ran away. Just then Noor feels a great deal of pain, and he realizes that he must have hit his limit. Unfortunately, his low heal ability can't heal exhaustion this bad. Noor coughs up blood as he is surrounded, and he just hopes that his friends were able to escape safely. Just then, as Noor prepares for death, he is shocked to hear that someone is using a familiar attack. The soldiers around him are wrecked, but Noor doesn't remember Gilbert's name and he mispronounces it several times. Gilbert is surprised though to see how much damage Noor did all on his own. Noor is amazed when he sees the instructor he met a long time ago named Sig. Instructor Sig doesn't recognize him, but he thanks Noor for taking on the army. Sig and Gilbert go to clean up the rest of the army, and Noor is stunned by how powerful his old instructor is. This is the power of the swordsman that Noor has always dreamed of being. The other heroes watch as well, but they are disappointed because they are sick not to take too many lives. It can't be helped though because they are heavily outnumbered. These two decide that it's time for them to shine now, so they also begin attacking. The other heroes arrive to take control of their battle, so the old wizard shows his immense control over earth magic. The white-haired dude does things a bit differently, as he tells his group to heal surviving enemies so they can have the chance to turn over a new leaf. Noor realizes that these were all his old instructors, and he can't believe that he was able to see them again. Lynne heals Noor and he is fine to move around again, but he's now hungry. The battle is over and an interrogation has revealed that the enemy has no troops left. They threw everything they had at them, including a dragon, and they lost. The Emperor was so confident in his army that he showed up on the battlefield himself, but he had to run away. Noor realizes that they're talking about the old geezer, and the wizard is shocked to hear that Noor met the Emperor. Noor describes the armor he and his horses wore, so the wizard determines that it must have been orichalcum armor. It's very high-grade equipment that can support an extensive array of skills. This explains why he was able to get away. If the Emperor escapes to the border, then they won't be able to go after him. This is because there is a fortress there as well as a bridge that spans a ravine. The wizard determines that there's no way to catch up to the Emperor, and he wishes that they all could fly. Just then the wizard is shocked when Noor says that there might be a way. However, this depends on if their being in his plan is still alive. Noor's idea turned out to be using the dragon. The wizard is stunned because he never thought that he would be able to see an ancient and legendary beast up close. It's an incredible sight, and this makes living to an old age worth it for the wizard. Sane feels the same way, as this is the first time he has ever been tasked with healing such an enormous dragon. Sane gets to work and uses healing magic on their giant beast. Sane remembers Noor and is amazed to see how much he has grown. The wizard didn't recognize him, but Sane did right away. Noor is glad to see that the wizard is still alive and well, but the wizard is insulted because he plans to live for at least another 100 years. Noor thinks that the old wizard is funnier than ever, but the geezer wasn't joking. He doesn't think that trying to ride on the dragon's back is a good idea, but Noor explains that they will be okay because they have Rolo on their side. The wizard is glad to hear it, but he's horrified when Rolo says that he has no confidence in his ability at all. Just then the dragon begins to wake up and the wizard begins to panic. Everyone expresses their confidence on Rolo, but Noor can tell that the dragon is angry. Rolo is shocked that Noor was able to sense this, so Noor explains that he learned a lot from living in the mountains for a really long time. The dragon desperately wants revenge and wants Rolo to order it to get some. The wizard is amazed that Rolo has such control over the dragon because it's waiting for his orders. Noor compliments Rolo as well, but Rolo begins to explain that it's actually listening to Noor. Unfortunately, he's interrupted by the dragon's impatience. The dragon wants to go now, so Noor tells everyone to get ready to ride it. Noor is shocked to see that the girls want to go, so they explain that Rolo has to go to control the dragon, and they need to protect him. Noor didn't think they would want him to go as well, but they do, and he thinks about how he is terrified of heights. It was his idea though, so he doesn't really have a choice. Sane will go as well and so will Karoo. Noor shocked to remember this guy who was his thief class instructor. He will be in charge of concealing their presence. Just then the king and Rain arrive to declare that Rain will be going as well. Lynne is glad to see her family and Ines is prepared to be punished for coming back to the capital instead of escaping with the princess. Rain decides not to punish her and instead he takes responsibility for giving such an idiotic order. The king leaves Rain to issue orders from here on out and he apologizes to Noor for asking so much of him. He needs Noor's help one last time though, and asks them to protect his children. Noor assures him that he will bring them back safely, and Rolo instructs the dragon to fly. The heroes wonder if it was really okay to just let Noor leave without revealing the truth to him. Sig explains that it's for the best because in reality Noor has never needed them to play a role in his life. Dan doubted thinking that they would be able to raise Noor themselves with just based on their egos. This is because Noor was like a hero straight out of the legends. Sig now realizes that he was just being lazy these past few years. He stopped fighting to teach others, but after seeing what Noor did he has decided to retrain himself from scratch. Sig is inspired by Noor's abilities, so he refuses to just let his own sword rest away. The heroes are pretty happy because they were able to witness the spectacle that Noor just performed. On the dragon, everyone looks for the Emperor, but there are no signs of him. He's much faster than they expected, so they begin to wonder if he already made it back to the Empire. They approach a steel bridge which marks the beginning of the Empire-controlled territory. They can't just recklessly run in, so they consider turning back. The decision is left to Rain, but Lynne notices something moving at an extremely fast speed. It's the Emperor, but he's nearing the Imperial capital's defenses. It's clear that they won't make it back in one piece if they cross into enemy territory. They are concealed for now, but if they get too close then the enemy will detect that magic is being used. Letting the Emperor escape is not an option though, because the Empire has access to powerful magic tools, and they are very dangerous. They cannot give them the time to rebuild their army. Just then Ines surprisingly asked for permission to annihilate the entire area. They are running out of time, so she wants to destroy the enemy's defenses. Lynne is shocked because normally Ines would never suggest exerting her own power. However, this time Ines is just as angry as the rest of them. The royal capital she vowed to risk her life to protect was just trampled on. Rain gives Ines the permission she was looking for, and he tells her not to hold back. Ines absolutely destroys the wall and follows up by attacking the base. Their escape route is now secured, but the job isn't done. Their actions here will determine the course of the war, so they will continue to pursue the Emperor. Rain plans to follow him even if it takes them to the Imperial capital, and Lynne says that she is ready. Everyone here wields power far outside the norm, and they're the strongest people imaginable. Above them, although it's her instructor Noor, and she can't even begin to comprehend his greatness. Lynne admires him greatly, but we see that he's suffering pretty badly from being so high up. Lynne is ready and declares that they will show the Empire what happens when they mess with the wrong people. The story continues. We see the Emperor finally makes it back to the fort, and now that he believes he is safe, his terror turns into anger as he remembers how badly he was humiliated. As he walked past his officials, they asked him why he's covered in mud and smells like piss, so the Emperor starts blaming all his soldiers for not being able to win despite all the high-tech equipment they were given. However, he gets cut off and one of the officials spots something outside the window. The Emperor looks up and a state of terror returns as he realizes that the Dragon of Calamity is heading straight for the Empire, but he can't understand how it's still alive on the laser beam should have killed it. He soon realizes that it must have been Saint Sane who revived it, but even if they were able to heal the dragon, there should be no way for them to get the dragon to attack him unless someone was controlling it. He then turns and asks for the beast tamer he hired, so the official informs him that Master Lude already left the Empire, and the Emperor believes Lude must have betrayed him. He starts throwing a tantrum, so Randius tries to calm him down since yelling won't do anything to help their situation. However, the Emperor just turns on him and starts yelling for Randius to stop being useless and do something to save the Empire, so Randius agrees and walks away with a look that says he's sick of the Emperor's shit. In the meantime, the Emperor orders the others to prepare Karanos because he wants to use it to blast the dragon out of the sky. The officials tried to talk him out of it since Karanos is still in the testing phase, and it would likely destroy a good chunk of the city as well as fired it now. However, the Emperor doesn't care and kicks one of them across the room. In his defense, they don't have many other options, since the dragon will destroy the city anyway if they do nothing, so he says they don't need to worry about collateral damage, and if necessary it can just use the mana targeting system to emit properly. The officials do as instructed, so the entire city goes dark as the Karanos laser cannon is locked into the dragon's mana signature, and the Emperor is confident that the dragon will be destroyed because this is the strongest weapon his empire has ever developed. However, as the lasers fired and head straight for the dragon, something on the dragon's head parries the laser, causing it to change trajectory. The Emperor is in disbelief at what just happened, and even worse, because they turned on the mana tracking settings, resulting laser beams are now aiming for the Empire's mana generators, and without those, the Empire is completely defenseless. The Emperor starts blaming the officials for this, even though he was the one who ordered them to fire the laser. One by one the officials all decide that they had enough of him and quit on the spot. The Emperor is now left alone as he witnesses the foundation of his entire empire go up in flames. The few moments earlier, the group was approaching the Empire on the dragon's back, when all of a sudden Noor sensed something coming. This laser beam was far stronger than the last, and there wasn't enough time to dodge it either, so Noor ran out in front of them and parried the blast. He was successful, but he unfortunately can't fly, so he ended up crashing into the Emperor's castle. At the same time, the Emperor is currently surrounded by Randiuses and a couple other knights who are sick of dealing with him. The Emperor asks what Randius thinks he is doing, so he explained that he intends to save the Empire, and to do that he needs to kill the Emperor. The Emperor cries out for someone to save him, but there's no one left who is willing to follow his orders anymore, so it looks like he's going to be killed sure. However, just before he gets cut down, Noor comes crashing through the ceiling. He's surprised by how lucky he was to crash land in the Emperor's throne room. Randius raises his sword and asks Noor if he intends to protect the Emperor, and Noor doesn't really care about protecting the Emperor, but he also doesn't think it's right for these knights to kill him. One of the knights tries firing a gun at the Emperor, but Noor parries the shot and very gently puts the Emperor's head to the ground so he doesn't get injured. Randius and his men realize Noor is a skilled fighter, so they all decide to attack him at once. However, Noor parries them all away easily. Randius explains that the Emperor has doomed his country and he needs to atone for it with his life, so one of the knights throws a bomb in an attempt to execute the Emperor. Noor sees this coming, so he once again very gently kicks the Emperor out of the way. As the Emperor's body dangles from the wall, Noor asks why Empire's knights are trying to kill him. However, one of the knights points out that Noor has done a lot more damage to the Emperor than any of them have. Regardless, Randius says the Emperor needs to die, so he throws several more bombs at the Emperor. However, Noor notices ahead of time and gently grabs the Emperor's leg before carefully setting him down on the floor. Noor tells the knights that the Emperor's already pretty old, so why not just throw him in prison and let him die of natural causes, but Randius says they can't afford to do that since the enemy has already invaded the Empire, and they are on their way here with the Dragon of Calamity, so he needs to kill the Emperor immediately to show that they do not intend to fight anymore. However, he suddenly hears someone say that killing the Emperor won't be necessary because he can't suffer for his actions if he's already dead. Rain has just arrived along with the others and he thanks Noor for all his help, but from this point onwards he wants to handle things on his own. He asked Lynne to go heal Noor since he might be injured from his fall, so Noor and Lynne both leave the throne room to let Rain handle business. Rain addresses the knights and once again tells them that they don't need to worry since he doesn't have any beef with them, so no action will be taken to harm them, but the Emperor on the other hand isn't going to be so lucky. The Emperor plays the Rain to spare him, and Rain surprisingly agrees to forgive the Emperor but only under certain conditions. As a result of the Emperor's attacks, a few of the kingdom's people ended up being crushed under rubble, burning to death in fires, or being torn to pieces by beasts, so as long as the Emperor is willing to suffer the same pain that he inflicted, Rain is willing to forgive him and begin multinational peace talks to discuss reparations needed to end the war. He asks if anyone objects to his plans and no one is on the Emperor's side, so this agreed that the Emperor will have to endure the same amount of suffering. The Emperor doesn't understand what they mean since there's no way he could live through all that pain. The Saint assures him that no matter how many times his bones are broken or his guts are cut open, Saint will always be there to patch him back up so he can continue being tortured. And even if he passes out due to all the pain, Karoo has his ways of making him conscious again. The Emperor is even more terrified than last time and pisses himself in fear, but Rain feels the need to clarify that he doesn't enjoy torturing people, but he needs the Emperor to fully understand the pain that he inflicted on all those people over a petty grudge. Is anything he's being really lenient with the punishment? What's going on inside? Noor is just finished getting healed by Lynne. He's feeling much better, but he looks out to the Empire, and he can't help but feel bad about all the damage he caused when he deflected that laser. Lynne tells him to not let it bother him since he only did it to protect them from getting hit by the laser, and besides no one died from any of the damage since the lasers only hit the Empire's mana generators. Those areas are high concentrations of mana, so no one would have been near the generators when they were destroyed. However, their destruction will still have a large impact on the lives of the people here. Just then Rain, Karoo, Saint return and they say they've reached an agreement, so from now on the Empire and the Kingdom will be focusing on post-war reconstruction. Noor is surprised the war is already over when it barely even started, but since that's the case, he asks what happened to the Emperor. Rain explains that the Emperor has advocated the throne, his grandchild is likely going to be appointed as the new Emperor, but the kid is only 10 years old. So in the meantime, a guardian is going to be appointed to rule in his place, and it was decided that the knights will be put in charge until the child becomes old enough to rule. Just then the knights come out as well, and the first thing Randius does apologize for attacking Noor earlier. He says he is willing to do whatever it takes to make amends for his mistake, but Noor says he doesn't really mind, so there's no need for him to worry about it. Randius is glad Noor isn't upset, but as a gesture of goodwill, he tells Noor that if he is ever in need of help, then Randius and the other knights will spare no expense to assist him in any way they can. Noor tells them there's no need to go so far for him, and if anything, Noor feels like he should be apologizing for all the damage he did to the city. Randius tells him that he shouldn't feel bad about it since it was a direct result of the former emperor's actions, and besides there have been no reports of any dead or injured from the blasts, so it's just a matter of rebuilding. The crimes the Empire committed against the kingdom are far more serious by comparison, but Noor still offers to help in any way he can, even if it's just helping clear out the rubble. Unfortunately, the dragon is getting bored, so they all get on its back and fly off to return to the kingdom, but Noor still really hates flying. By the time they return, they are greeted by the king, and he apologizes for making Rain do all the negotiating alone. He wants to be filled in on all the details later, but before that he needs to extend his thanks to their savior. Rain agrees that Noor almost single-handedly saved the entire capital, so he needs to be given a fitting reward. However, Noor cuts them off and says he doesn't need any rewards. They can't understand that Noor isn't materialistic, but he literally saved the entire country, so there's no way the king can just let him go without a reward. Noor understands that it's normal to receive a reward in a situation like this, but he honestly can't think of anything he really wants as a reward though. However, he then looks down at Rolo and announces that there's actually something he would like the king to do for him. The king is happy to hear that Noor actually has a request, so he asks what it is, and Noor tells him that he wants Rolo to be taken care of. He says Rolo is a Demonfolk child and has nowhere to live after he was abandoned, so Noor would like to have Rolo live in the capital as a regular citizen. Noor had considered taking Rolo by himself, but he lived as a simple life and Rolo would be much better off if he were looked after by a wealthy family. He says it would be great if the king can provide some land and a house for Rolo, and the king understands Noor's request. And that's kind of an issue since the Holy Theocracy of Mithra has labeled all demon folk as enemies, so the king accepts Rolo as one of his citizens, then it would put a strain of diplomatic relations with Mithra. He is about to ask if Noor can make a different request, but Noor speaks up and says that he doesn't need anything other than Rolo's security, so if the king intends to offer something else, then he would be better off redirecting those resources towards rebuilding the kingdom. The king is stunned by Noor's persistence, so he can't help but burst out in laughter. Rolo looks up at Noor and has a flashback to the moment he was about to be killed by the frog dragon, and how he hoped to have a better life where he wouldn't have to suffer as much, and could maybe even eat delicious food, but he never really expected his dream to come true. Rolo later wakes up in a warm bed and soon sits down at a dinner table with Ines, where she tells him that he will be living with her for the time being. Rolo hasn't much to say, so Ines tells him to hurry up and eat his food before it gets cold. Rolo is surprised because he hadn't even considered the idea that all of this was for him. This is the first time he's ever gotten to eat non-rotten food, so as he takes his first bite, he sheds tears and smiles, saying the food is delicious. That brings the episode to an end. Thanks for watching. Want next part? Subscribe the channel and turn on notification bell.